This is the Puck Junk Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Puck Junk Hockey Podcast. I'm Sal Berry, and with me is Tim Parrish and Clemente Lisi. And today we are going to do a retrospective about the movie Sudden Death, which is basically like Die Hard at a hockey game. That movie came out 30 years ago, so this seems like as good a time as any to talk about the film. We're also going to talk about some surprise Upper Deck Series 1 cards that popped up at Walmart Canada, and the latest in the acquisition of Beckett by PSA, and a wrinkle that's going on in their plans. So, gentlemen, how are we doing? Clemente, I'll start with you. How's life? How's life treating you?
Life is good. Just waiting for the holidays at this point.
Oh, yeah, we're almost there.
Almost there.
Yeah. So, any plans for the holidays? Going out of town or?
No, just the usual. Visiting my family. They're in New York, and lots of food. That's what I'm looking forward to. Lots of food.
Yeah. Especially when you can take leftovers, like we talked about with Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. And Tim, how you doing?
Oh, I'm all right. I'm not going to pretend like I'm great, but I'm all right. We had our white elephant exchange today at work. That was fun.
Oh, yeah. Tell us about that. What did you get anything cool?
No. It's a white elephant. If you've ever been a part of a white elephant, you're not supposed to take this seriously. And the people
supposed to get bad stuff.
Yeah, the people I work with, some of them just, I don't know, they didn't do it right. It's messed up.
They don't know what white elephant means, I guess.
Yeah, like here's my gift. You know what my gift was? My gift was a plunger.
That's funny.
It was a plunger, and I stuffed it full of lottery tickets.
That's pretty good.
So that was my gift. That was my gift.
Is that because you're flushing your money down the toilet when you play the lottery?
Basically.
But then what'd you end up with?
That's
always fun.
I didn't actually even pick. When it was my turn, I stole somebody's.
Okay.
And I ended up with a thing of apple pie moonshine. So I was happy with that. So that's pretty good.
That's cool.
If you like apple pie moonshine, I mean, it's really good, but yeah.
I remember.
I'm a drinker, so there you go.
I think the white elephant is more fun than the Secret Santa. So for sure. So I think that.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, there was all sorts of weird stuff, but like a couple people went overboard with the stuff they bought. I mean, it was supposed to be a $20 limit. There were a couple gifts that were just like, there's no way that had to be more than $20. But I was happy. I can use my gift. I will consume that. Not by myself.
I remember we did a white elephant at this was a long time ago. This was a holiday party at a school I used to teach at. And so it was like our department. And it was funny because like all of the like full-time faculty members and the chair, Clemente, you can maybe relate to this because you're also in academia, but they totally phoned it in. And their gifts were like either Starbucks gift cards, the ones the gifts that they brought, or it was like a bag full of chocolates, and kind of like the nice chocolate bars that cost like $3 to $5, but that you could still just kind of get at any supermarket. So it was like they put like zero thought into it. Like, I mean, I guess a Starbucks gift card is nice, but at the same time, it was almost, you could tell that it was just so last minute with them. You know what I mean?
No, but I mean, I think Tim is right that it's got to have like a musical chairs element to it, meaning that it's supposed to have like a nice array of really lousy gifts, because the whole point is you might end up with something really silly like, like I went to one once. It wasn't a work thing. It was like a party that somebody had, one of my wife's friends, like after the holidays. So people brought the stuff that they got from Christmas they didn't like. And I ended up with this like really awful looking cookie jar of Santa Claus, because it was like somebody must have gotten it as a gift and they didn't want it. And and then the whole trade thing, that's the whole fun of it. Like, you bring something, I forgot what I even brought, but that's the whole point. I think people, like, if you're gonna buy gift cards, that's actually a good gift. Like, why would I, no, like, why would that be? Like, you're right, there was no thought put into it, but also if you end up with it, it's not horrible, and they should.
That's what I said. The moonshine I got, somebody else picked it, but I stole it from them, so that became my gift because I'm like, I want that. There can't possibly be anything better than that in the rest of this pile. And
my wife told me that her job, they did it where people had to bring in socks. So some people brought in like holiday socks, but literally somebody brought in a pair of, like, what looked like, my wife said, like, just a pair of used socks. I'm like, well, that's funny. Like, you don't want them, but it's hilarious that that would be what ends up there. And I kept saying, oh, you're gonna have a New York sock exchange. So that was a joke. I kept making that joke for like a day or two, but whatever. That was just me.
No, it's a good joke, and that's like a latest trend. I see it everywhere.
Oh, is it? Okay, like, I didn't know that.
Doing sock exchanges now with like themed socks, and you try to like get stuff that people don't want.
Right.
We were at the dollar store, and they had socks of like movie themes with like logos and stuff on it.
Right.
Because that's where I bought the plunger, and This is a PSA, public service announcement, for those that don't know what I'm talking about. Don't buy a plunger from the dollar store if you're actually intending to use it for what its intention is. Just throwing that out there.
It's going to make matters worse.
The quality is, let's say, less than. Let's put it this way: I wouldn't even rank them number 2.
When
I got it. I got it.
As long as somebody did.
No, I got it. I wasn't going to acknowledge your shitty joke.
No, they're horrible. They're horrible. And the only reason why I did it is because I wanted to wrap it so it looked like a plunger wrapped, because I didn't think anybody would pick it, because they'd be like, I'm not going to pick a plunger because that's stupid.
Right.
Yeah, like when you wrap it and just around the shape of it. It's like when one year I remember giving my friend's daughter a hockey stick. And like, I literally wrapped it like perfectly. Like, so I handed it to her. She's like 6. And she's like, it looks like a hockey stick. And I'm like, I don't know. You'll have to open it and find out. Yeah. And then she opens it and she's like, hey, it's a hockey stick. But I mean, I like literally wrapped it like right around. So, it was that shape. And then she said, now I wish I had a puck. And then her mom's like, hon, look in the gift bag that Sal gave you. Because I brought, some floor hockey pucks, but it's like, oh, I don't have a puck. It's like, look in the bag. But I was going to say,
clearly looked like a plunger. So
that's
it got
funny.
picked, and I was waiting for them to open it, and then they did, and out pops all the lottery tickets. Which, by the way, that got stolen.
The lottery
twice.
Tickets?
Oh, just
that gift got stolen twice.
Oh, because the potential is higher.
So even though I had a crappy gift, people wanted it.
So I don't want to belabor this because I know we have a show to do, but I'm really against giving lottery tickets, like scratch offs, because if the person were to win $1,000 or more, or even 500, I think I might go crazy. I think I might be like, I just can't believe I gave this person $1,000.
I don't even care.
And this comes from someone who doesn't even buy scratch off tickets. Like I don't buy them for myself. So if somebody did win, I don't know what the etiquette on that is. They have to give you half, probably not. But be nice.
Unless you tell them, they might think you're joking. I mean, I said it. I'm like,
you said it, okay.
If anybody wins a lot of money, I just want my $20 back. That's all.
Okay, well that's not that bad.
I wouldn't have taken it, but I'm just saying.
I can see this white elephant party going to court, like, hey, I get,
Well, good thing I work with a bunch of lawyers. So,
well, or maybe not a good thing.
Two quick thoughts. One is I was talking about the white elephant party and how lame some of the gifts were, but the gift that I unwrapped was a small air hockey game. It was maybe about 18 inches wide, so it was pretty big, and it had 2 little paddles that were about, I can't remember how big they were exactly, but just big enough to hold with your forefinger and thumb. And it used like 4 or 6 AA batteries, and it actually had air coming out of it. So it was like an actual legit air hockey table, like a mini air hockey table. And it was kind of a fun gift, but I think I ended up selling it at a garage sale. And I remember somebody else was going to like swipe it. He's like, oh, I like hockey. I'm like, yeah, I know you like hockey. I like hockey too. No, but I got 2 kids who also like hockey. And I'm like, don't you dare. And he didn't. But yeah, so I guess it was like kind of cool, but kind of lame at the same time because I didn't keep it ultimately. And as far as the lottery tickets, back earlier this year, I had a birthday party and a friend of mine gave me $100 worth of lottery tickets.
Oh, wow.
Like because I counted it up. Like he gave me a card and he gave me these lottery tickets, and it was like literally like because there was like $1 tickets, $2 tickets, $5 tickets. There were a couple of $10 tickets in there, and it all added up to $100. And out of all those tickets, I won $40. So
Wow.
I'm just thinking, well, dude, you could have just given me $100, or you could have given me like a gift card for $50 or $40. I don't know. Like,
So you're saying the odds are low.
No, the odds are like, because I looked on the back and it said that like basically your odds are like 1 in 3 lottery tickets win something. And actually, out of all the lottery tickets, 1 in 3 did win, but some of them were just break even. So like, or like a $1 ticket might have won me $2. A $5 ticket might have won me $5 or maybe $10. You know what I mean? Like it.
This sounds a lot like hobby boxes.
Yeah. and mine were exactly like every Upper Deck box I opened. All 10 scratch offs, $0. So, because they scratched them off at the table.
So this is a great segue, right? Isn't it, Sal?
I think so. Yeah. So on the docket for today, we're going to talk about 2025-26 Upper Deck Series 1 Holiday Edition hanger boxes, the FTC to investigate the sale of Beckett to PSA, and then our sudden death movie retrospective. You guys told me about this today. I had no idea. Like, okay, because I don't really look at the Walmart Canada website. I pretty much, I don't want to say I stay off of social media, but like most of my social media has been Facebook, and that's the one that I could tolerate. Nobody's on Threads. Nobody's on Blue Sky as much as I try to engage on Blue Sky. And every time I go on Twitter, I'm quickly reminded of why I'm no longer on Twitter, and I get off of Twitter. Like it's kind of like, oh yeah, no, this is bad. I need to go, and then I leave. So I don't like. I get this info from you guys. Like you're like kind of like my conduit into this. Otherwise, I would not have known about this. So I guess in Canada, in Walmart, they have these hanger boxes that cost $30. And they have 12 packs in the hanger box, 4 cards per pack. So, I mean, you're getting 48 cards. So that's kind of like buying 4 regular packs. That's why I kind of flip-flopped it. Like you would, like a normal blaster box would be 4 packs, 12 cards.
It reminds me of those Pokemon Halloween packs, where it's like 3 or 4 cards in a pack. They're very thin.
Right. And I remember finding dollar store packs during
similar.
David's rookie year
Similar.
that were like 4 cards per pack. And I think Young Guns were like, instead of 1 in every 4 packs, I think they were like 1 in every 12 packs or something.
Right.
And then these have a special green Young Guns and special red and green Dazzlers. So, Tim, you sent me some pictures that you found of the green Young Guns. Yep. Okay. So instead of silver foil, we have green foil. And then the Dazzlers are kind of like a little bit like a yin yang, where you got kind of like almost half of it is one color, half of it is the other color. But in this case, it's red and green because Christmas, right? So, or holiday. So
at least they didn't give it the full. At least they didn't give it the full Topps treatment, where like Topps Holiday, where like instead of a hockey stick, you'd be holding a massive candy cane or something. Like they kept the pictures normal, just the green writing and the.
Sounds like something they would have done for Topps Skate.
Or Upper Deck logo is a green, but that they left it at that. It's like a parallel. It's like a parallel almost.
Yeah, and then I guess Tim, you said this was one guy opened 3 or 4 boxes.
Yeah, so somebody posted they opened 3, and so those are all the Young Guns and everything. Of course, nobody ever shows the base card. The base cards are green too. So
really,
okay. Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, it says it right on those boxes. if you go on Walmart's website and look at all the different pictures of the boxes and flip it to the side where the little fine print is.
So you could do a green. You could do a green base then if you wanted to.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
It's got the Upper Deck logo and the silver. All the silver foil is green. So, but it doesn't seem to have affected any of the other inserts but the Dazzlers. So it's just the base cards, the Young Guns, and those red and green Dazzlers, which I think they missed the mark here. They should have put a hole punch in the top so you could hang these from your tree.
Yeah.
Actually use them as ornaments.
Yeah, like Topps does with their holiday pack. They have like the circular ball one, and yeah,
they could have taken a page out of the old Pacific book and made some ornaments out of these. So, but whatever. Yeah, it's just weird. Nobody knew about these. Nobody heard about them, and all of a sudden, over the weekend, people were posting about them on various sites, and everybody, of course, lost their minds. They're like, "What is this? Where is this? Where'd you get it? Where can you find it?" La 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 la. And it's all appears to be just at Walmart's in Canada and on their website, walmart.ca. And I doubt they'll ship to the United States. So,
it's perfect for the final weekend before Christmas. So people were in the stores shopping, and they must have stumbled upon, and then it spread like wildfire on the internet, right?
Yeah, the big question is, okay, so how much of this stuff is there? And is this going to hold a stronger premium? I mean, if you guys remember a few years back, they had the Canadian Young Guns that had the red foil maple leaf stamped on them.
Mm-hmm.
So there's those parallels that were only available in Canada. And depending on the player, sometimes those have a huge price tag on them. Other ones are less than the regular Young Guns. So it just depends.
Because they're not numbered, but we don't know how many they printed.
Yeah. So, I don't know how many holiday boxes, if there was a limit. I don't know anything really about it. It was just a surprise, and started seeing these. I'm like, well, that's interesting. They look like the old Emerald Ice from Parkhurst.
Yeah, I liked those.
This is a gold, or because of the green.
The green, yeah. I liked those 93, 94 Emerald Ice parallels. I think those look. I mean, I liked it, because Parkhurst had that green logo, so it just made sense.
They still have them in all the Parkhurst releases. They're just different.
I think with like value, like just thinking, like just in the past, like I feel like if you have like the regular Young Gun and then the green Young Gun, most people are going to want the regular Young Gun and not necessarily pay a premium for the green Young Gun. But that would change if it's a really high-end player. Like if it's a player who ends up being a superstar, then maybe they'll pay more, because it's kind of like when you have like a cup rookie that's numbered out of 199, and then you have the gold parallel that's numbered out of 99, but then that one sells for less because people would be like, well, the real rookie card is the one that's numbered out of 199 and not the one that's numbered out of 99. So even if the parallel, it has a lower print run, that doesn't always translate to more value to collectors.
Well, it's a perfect example of that is when you have serial number cards.
Yeah.
You have rookie cards and things that are all serial numbered within the confines of the base set with the parallels. And people would rather still have the regular old original Young Gun, which is fine. I mean, if you want that to be the thing, but if you're going to talk true scarcity on something, if you're slapping a serial number on it within the confines of that parallel, well, there's only X number of them. So you can actually quantify that. So if these are limited and limited supply, and if it ever comes out and they say, hey, we only made, 5,000 of these or something, then you'll know, well, based off of the print run and the odds of pulling these, there's probably estimated, whatever. I don't know if that's going to be the case. The fact that they're regional and they're only in Canada, I mean, obviously they'll trickle out eventually, but I don't know. It's gimmicky, but everything is gimmicky anymore. So I guess
holiday
stuff.
I guess the question I have is, why not announce it to create this crazy buzz and hype?
Yeah. Yeah, no build up, no ads, no nothing. It's just all of a sudden one day there it was. So I don't know.
You know, I was thinking about something like this recently. I went to Sam's Club, which is owned by Walmart, and I was looking it was like the candy aisle, like in the middle, like they have like popcorn, candy, Twinkies, stuff like that, right? And so I was kind of walking up and down those aisles, and I found this box of Panini football cards. It was like the size of a board game box, but it had a window, and then it had these like individual packs,
like Pokemon does sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
They make
So it was like
those just for the warehouse clubs.
right. And so I was thinking to myself, I was like, with sports cards being as popular as they are, I wonder if Sam's Club has any sports cards, right? Because you see them at Walmart, of course, by the checkout, and they had that box of football cards, and I looked at the box and it said something like contains one exclusive purple parallel per pack. Purple parallel per pack. Say that 5 times fast. But picked a pack of purple parallels. So and I was just thinking, oh, that's cool. I guess if you're a football collector, and it'd be kind of cool if they had something like for hockey, like if they said, hey, here's this Sam's Club exclusive upper deck packs or whatever. Yeah, I would have totally bought some. Because of course, if you're spending like, $200 on toilet paper, cashews, chicken, mini pizzas, and all the other stuff that you buy at Sam's Club, paper towels, napkins, bottled water, all that stuff. What's an extra $20-$30 on hockey cards at that point, right? But yeah, so I was kind of thinking there should be something like this. And sure enough, there is kind of something like that for hockey collectors, but it's up in Canada and doesn't really do much for me. And also doesn't really do much for me because I can't really get super excited about, okay, these young guns have green foil. And I guess you said the base cards also have green foil. So yay for green foil, I guess.
If you're a team collector or player collector, it's just one more thing you got to add to your list.
Just one more thing. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So
you already have the base, and then when the E-Pack comes out, you'll have the silver foil and the gold sparkle, and then you'll have the outburst and the red outburst, and
you have to have the green one now, right?
Now you got to get the green one.
And also for the first time in Upper Deck series flagship history, people might actually want Dazzlers. I don't know. I'm not sure. But
maybe the red and green might hold some water.
Yeah. Though I like the idea of maybe putting them into a top loader and punching a hole in the top loader, not the card, and hanging on your tree. You can still do that.
Oh, come on. Just punch it through the card. Live a little.
They could have made them out of PETG plastic and punched a hole in them, and then they could have then that would have worked.
If you wanted the hanger box to be $97.
Well, because you can't put, it's right.
But if you get one per box,
it costs too much to print on.
So it's no more than a clear cut.
Or just put it in because it's a hanger, you can put the packs in there and then just put that one card in there because it doesn't matter. You can't see it. You can't.
Make it a box topper or
exactly. Yeah, and maybe ideas for next year. Maybe make it not just Canadian, but maybe North American because there's plenty of hockey collectors here in the U.S.
Yeah, let's just have craft day and take all our Dazzlers and just hole punch them. We'll do it here live on the show. Everybody can follow along with us.
Yeah. No, I like Dazzlers enough. I don't collect them per se, but I don't dislike them. Like
I don't deface them.
Yeah, I have a real hard time defacing a trading card. Like, I think when I was taping them to my notebooks and stuff, they were always the ones that had like the gum stains or the wax stains on the back. So to me, those were expendable. They were just like, oh, well, I could tape it to my book or my notebook or whatever, because it's already damaged. But, in hindsight, that probably wasn't too smart to do either. But, we do a lot of dumb stuff as kids. So, I'll just chalk that up to childhood. The FTC to investigate the sale of Beckett to PSA. So just to give this little bit of a summary here, and then you guys could talk more about this, because again, I've been kind of steering clear of social media the past few days, and I know we talked about this last week about Collectors, the parent company of PSA, buying Beckett and then owning 79% or 80% of the grading market. So New York Congressman Pat Ryan has demanded that the Federal Trade Commission open an investigation into possible antitrust violations by Collectors, which owns multiple hobby companies, including 3 of the industry's top 4 grading companies. Ryan's letter was addressed to FTC Chair Andrew N. Ferguson. So, okay, this is finally drawing the attention, right? Like the attention that Operation Bullpen got all those years ago with the fake autographs, and then the Don Mattingly forgery cards or counterfeit cards that were printed up and stuff like that. So now we're kind of getting back into that territory a little bit, where we have like a nice, not I don't say nice because this hasn't hit the boiling point yet, but we're like, hey, this is a monopoly, and we're surprised that card collecting has kind of flown under the radar this long, and now it seems like it's not so much anymore.
I'll just add that I think the congressman's kids are collectors, or that they like trading cards. So I'm sure this news filtered into his home, and that's probably how he found out about it. And then, of course, everything he wrote in his letter is exactly what we talked about on the podcast last week, where we were talking about, you can't own all these companies and you can't own 70 plus share of the market. And Tim pointed out this is a monopoly, and this is now in the government's hands. Now, what the FTC will do with that, we don't know. They can just say, great, thanks for the letter. But, a lot of congressmen write letters to different agencies and different people. Nothing ever happens. So it's a step in the right direction, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's monopolistic for sure. We're not quite at the monopoly level, but I think that the term oligopoly gets thrown around a lot, which is very a little more descriptive of what we have going on here. But I think the last part of what you said is more poignant. A lot of things are thrown around, and a lot of things are asked of various departments of the government, and chances of it actually getting in front of the eyes of somebody that can do something versus will they actually do something? Those are different things. And yeah, it's drawn a lot of attention. People are perking up and listening. They're like, oh no, the government's going to get involved with trading cards now. Honestly, as much as I'd love to see them look into it, I think this is a lot of blustering right now. I'd love it to go somewhere just to draw some attention to the stuff that's going on. Maybe put some eyeballs on fanatics, put some eyeballs on collectors, put some eyeballs on some of the other things that are going on within the hobby. But anytime you get congressmen involved in anything, it becomes political. I don't want my trading cards to become political. That's all I'm saying. Because next thing you know, they try to pass a bill that changes this or changes that, and mixed into that bill is 73 other things that have nothing to do with anything. And then the whole thing falls apart. And people label it as, oh, look, the trading card bill failed because it tried to legalize abortion or something stupid, because it all becomes political.
Well, yeah, look, this comes around the same time as that we spoke about this off air last week about the whole Netflix, Paramount, right? So that deal could happen, but the government could nix that. Also because
they could.
So
but
the
you're talking about
say,
a different industry.
No, I know. It's much more
an industry that's already regulated.
Right. No, exactly. And much more front facing. Everyone engaged with content on streaming platforms as opposed to what's the share of the population that deals with trading cards. I mean, it's
right. And that's part of the problem is this is an industry that's already not regulated.
Right.
You know, of course, there are regulations that businesses and such have to follow. Of course, there is. But as long as they
Sure.
stay within the confines of what that business model is,
It's a lot of leeway.
what they're buying and selling, no one's going to pay attention to, especially if it's not regulated. And because trading cards are they're not a thing that has to be consumed by anybody. It's a hobby, right?
Right. It's
You
not
know,
a
it's not a
must.
consumable good. It's not a perishable thing. It's not food. It's not a telecommunications thing. It's not any of that kind of stuff. So, like I said, I think the odds of them jumping in, I think are slim.
Yeah, you know,
It'd be
it's
interesting
funny.
if they do. It's
Yeah.
definitely going to be interesting if they do.
Though if they do, there's so much other stuff in the hobby that should be looked at, including breakers on YouTube, for example.
Oh, it'll all get uncovered.
Well, that's the thing. So if one thing sparks it, you start opening up a powder keg because there's a lot.
Yeah, that's really what this is. Is this the snowball at the top of the hill?
Yeah, or not. But eventually, if people in the hobby keep pushing, eventually the dam will burst. So they have to be careful how much they're getting away with, because while we're both saying, hey, I don't think anything's going to happen, you just never know. And if I'm in the hobby, I'm a breaker or someone, a high roller, I would be kind of concerned that I was like, oh, now a U.S. congressman knows about this. Like, you know, it got out there. It got beyond just the trading card world.
It's outside of our little
right, the bubble that
we yelling at
we
each
built.
other.
Yes.
Yeah, and again, I hate to turn this into a political argument, but think about this. If you have opposing political viewpoints that are completely polarized from one side to the other, and depending on whichever side is in charge at that given time, their priorities are going to be set in a different way. So if somebody comes to current administration and says, hey, there's a business doing business and buying up other businesses so they could function better within the business world, okay, cool. I'm not going to stop them from doing what they're doing. You know, another regime comes in and says, hey, this business owns this much for the market share of blah, blah. Holy cow, they can't do that. They have to give some to everybody. So they're going to jump in. And that's the thing. It's maybe this ain't the right time to do it. But again, I think this is more about, hey, we've been functioning on our little social media platforms, yelling and screaming at each other and posting crazy stuff and doing this and doing that within the confines of this. Well, now CNBC is running a piece on a potential congressman stepping in and asking the FTC to investigate something going on in our world. You know, it's not every day that you get national news focusing on our little hobby niche over here.
Yeah, so the other disconnect is not just who's currently in charge versus who's not in charge, and who's maybe some political parties are more pro-business than others. It's not just that. It's also trying to explain, well, what do they do? Oh, they grade trading cards. What does that mean? And you have to explain this.
Sure.
And that's not so simple, as opposed to like, hey, the price of eggs are really high, or why is Netflix buying Paramount? People know what that means. People are like, what? And they say, well, they do it in the coin world. Oh, I never heard of that. So you have to explain the problem. And once you're explaining the problem, people are like, I don't really care about this. It doesn't impact my life.
Right.
And so you lose people, I think. So,
yeah, you put this in front of a whole group of congressmen and they're like, yeah, if I polled all my constituents, 6 of them care about this.
Yeah, so why is this a priority when we have other fish to fry here?
Yeah, and that's kind of the point that I'm making is this isn't big enough news, I think, yet. So I don't know. You know, who knows? These groups come out every day and they do crazy stuff, and people point it out. They point out the hypocrisy. They point out the ridiculous smarminess every single day. And the people in charge, the industry leaders, the influencers, all of them, they show their true colors almost on a daily basis. You're right. It is only a matter of time before just enough of them rub the wrong person the wrong way, and they take this on as like this is this is their high watermark of their career. And they're going to drive it into the ground.
Right.
So,
Well, I think like with the other stuff, when you have to do with counterfeiting, that's obviously a big deal. Well, everything can be a big deal, but counterfeiting baseball cards, forging autographs. I mean,
those are scams. Yeah.
yeah, those are scams, right?
a
That's where
crime.
you're trying to cheat people out of, basically selling them false goods. This sort of thing, yeah, with mergers and acquisitions and monopolies and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, you try like half of these congressmen don't even understand the internet or technology.
Right.
They might remember baseball cards when they were buying them for a nickel a pack back in 1960 or whatever, but like, it's obviously not that important to most of them. And just a kind of a tangent, but I remember a friend of mine pointing out, he's like, isn't it funny that there's a bureau called the BATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms? It's like all the fun stuff gets regulated by one bureau. And I'm thinking maybe it should be the BATFTC for Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Trading Cards, right? Just throw trading cards in there also, right? Like, what's your vice, right? Because it kind of fits. Well, not really, but it's a hobby. I guess firearms and alcohol can be hobbies too.
No, I think the spark that might trigger it is if it becomes a bigger deal, if the FTC wants to look at it, but also if it impacts, maybe, as we know grading does, Pokemon cards. People seem to know more about those than baseball cards sound like something from another era, but Pokemon is current. And the other thing too is, you mentioned monopolies. So, for example, a lot of American companies have been fined in Europe, like Microsoft. They have a monopoly, right? Even though they created Windows and nobody else. I mean, if no one else creates something similar, what can we do, right? So you have a monopoly on Word and everything else. So in Europe, they've been fined for being a monopoly. PSA is in Europe too. So you just never know. Maybe if Europeans look at it and might find them, that might become news and trigger something here. But generally, I think Tim said this, the US is a very pro-business climate. And if you explain it bare bones by saying, well, it's helping one company get bigger and do better service for more people, that generally is welcomed in the United States, even though it may be a monopoly, quote unquote.
That's why I said it's less a monopoly and more an oligopoly.
Right. Well, oligopoly is like what we have in Russia, where you have like 5 people run everything. We have that now in the trading card business. It's like 3-4 companies own everything, and that's true. Again, that's also not necessarily frowned upon, because the system is built where anybody can come in and buy a company. The thing is, nobody else is interested because they don't understand it, and they're not interested in this product, in this service. So why would Disney come in and buy PSA? They're like, I don't care about, like, Disney's like, we don't care about trading cards. We'll license them if you want to make them, but we're not going to get in this business. It's not for us.
Yeah, it's just absolutely too niche.
Yeah. So it's too niche. It's like stamp collecting, coin collecting. I mean, coin collecting is big. There's shows, there's shops. I'm in New York. There's a couple of shops that sell coins. I know nothing of the coin world, but I'm sure within the coin world, there are lots of arguments and debates and social media posts, and we're just not privy to it. We don't care. And I think this is the same thing, only we're in the card world. It's very specific.
That's exactly right. And if collectors and fanatics own everything, well, guess what? There's 2 companies that own everything. It's similar to like what we have in the auto industry or the airline industry, or
a few people.
Perfect example in the smartphone industry.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's only a few companies that do all of it, and I mean, it is what it is. They're not necessarily violating any laws per se until they do, and then the FTC comes along and looks at it, and they're like, oh, there's this company and this company, but there's also these 17 other companies, and they have 20%. Fine, we don't care.
Yeah, because when you're looking at, we're doing an investigation or looking into an issue, they might look at the company and say, well, there's plenty of choices here. There's Tag and other companies.
Yeah.
There's that Canadian company that grades cards that whenever I go to the expo, I see.
KSA.
Yeah, KSA. The
Mhm.
fact that the quality is not what the consumer wants, the government doesn't care. The government's like, you have choices. Now, if you like PSA, that's your choice. And if most people want to go to PSA, I mean, maybe PSA is doing something right then, right? So I think that's the way the government views these things. It's not like, well, you have choices. You can go to Tag, and then we're going to be like, Tag, we don't want to go there. It's like, well, then what do you want? And then the other things Beckett does, like the marketplace and the magazine, there's no monopoly there. It's like, well, anybody can start a magazine, right? So it's complicated. For now, I think it's not going anywhere. It's just interesting that after we spoke about it last week, it did make the rounds all last week. It was all over the place, podcasts, social media. And then on Friday, I noticed we saw the story. I'm like, okay, so it's bubbling. But, the way the hobby generally works is Christmas will come, everyone will forget about it, and there'll be another scandal in January that we're all going to run towards. Like,
there's already been 3 more since this thing.
Of course, you can't keep up with them, and so the problem is that there's too many, and so people's attention spans keep moving along. And I think
that's why nobody takes us seriously.
Right. Yeah.
Us?
It's a fight on. Us in the hobby world. It's a fight on the playground every day at lunch.
Right.
I mean, you like to see these occasionally, but if it's every day, come on, you get sick of it.
Yeah.
Well, I think part of that fight is because we have influencers now who are trying to claim that things are a certain way, or like things are great, or that whatever this thing is, what I say thing, like whatever they're trying to push, right, is great, but it's not. So I'll give like a for instance, and I'm probably going to fudge some of the details because I read into it and I got bored and I went away from it. But it was like the sports card investor guy, Jeff Wilson, was talking about well, first he's like, do you really think that PSA would do this buyback scandal to make, $20,000 on a card that they regrade and then, that they buy, regrade, it gets a higher grade and then they sell? He's like, it's like a, $10 million industry or whatever. Why would they want to do something that only makes them 20 grand or whatever? Right. But then people are like pointing out like, hey, dude, you actually get, you're actually like paid to promote PSA. They're one of your sponsors on your show and this and that and the other thing. So how can you're not really unbiased, right? Like we have a lot of these influencers who are not unbiased because they're getting money. They're getting money, they're getting product, they're getting other things. And so they're going to just be like, yeah, nothing's wrong. Everything's great. And then I think a lot of that friction, that fight on the playground is a lot of people saying, no, you're full of it. This is not right. This is not great. You're a shill. You're getting paid by the company or whatever. I love it when people call them out on that.
So it was worse than that. It was worse than that.
No,
because 2 days after he said that, coming to their defense, they announced that they were putting a drop-off location in his store.
Yes, that was part of it. That was part of it.
And it was like, are you kidding me?
Right. By the way,
it's like, come on.
Tim said this last week. Consider the source. It's great advice. That's all you need to know. I mean, that's all.
That's all. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Look at who's feeding you the pudding to know if it's laced with something.
Figgy pudding, because 'tis the season. Should we talk movies?
Let's do it. Right time of year.
Yeah, well, I guess. I mean, everybody talks about Christmas movies and Hallmark movies and stuff. So
not here.
Not here, no, because this is a hockey podcast. So
I mean, this movie came out around Christmas time when it came out.
You know what?
December 22nd, 1995.
So literally 30 years ago today, because today we're recording this on December 22nd, 2025. So 30 years ago today, terror went into overtime with the movie Sudden Death. So I know that a lot of people listen to this podcast are around our age. I look at the metrics, we got listeners in their 40s, 50s, 60s, some in their 30s, even some in their mid 20s, so kind of all over. I don't say all over the place, but what's up?
That's me. I'm in my mid-20s.
Mid-20s, right?
Yeah.
You hide it well, my friend. But this movie came out 30 years ago. It basically, like, if you've never seen Sudden Death, maybe you've seen the movie Die Hard, right? Where like terrorists take over an office building and hold people hostage. Now, imagine if Die Hard took place at a hockey game. Wait, no, let's make it even better. Let's raise the stakes. What if Die Hard took place at Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals between the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Chicago Blackhawks, and only Jean-Claude Van Damme could stop the bad guys? So that's basically the premise of the movie, with the tagline, "Terror goes into overtime." So it came out the Friday before Christmas. It made 20 million in theaters, so it was maybe not like a hit. It made 44 million worldwide, but then it was like one of those movies that was always on cable TV in like the 90s and like early aughts. I have a fondness for this movie for a couple of reasons. One is because I like martial arts movies. I like action movies. I used to study karate. Obviously, I'm a big hockey fan. I remember like going out on a date with this girl that I ended up dating in college. Like, we went to go see Sudden Death together. So like I have all these like fond memories like attached to like going to see Sudden Death back in the 90s. And then 10 years ago, I wrote a story about it for the Hockey News. I did an oral history. I'll be sure to link to that so you could read it, where I talked to like some of the people involved with making the movie. Of course, I didn't talk to Jean-Claude Van Damme because he was rehab. No, I'm sorry. He didn't want to talk. His publicist didn't want to get me in touch with him or whatever, but
they don't want to acknowledge that he was in this. They don't want to acknowledge that he was in this movie. This is before Time Cop, right? Which is
no, this was after Time Cop.
Oh, after,
this was after Time Cop.
But Time Cop is
Time Cop.
But that's his like most famous movie.
Is it? I think it's Bloodsport or Kickbox. I think it's Kickboxer.
Maybe, yeah.
You know,
same director though.
Peter Hyams, also did Time Cop.
Right.
Yeah. So,
I think that's that pitch to him.
What's that?
Go ahead, Tim.
Tim?
I was just going to say, I think that's how the whole thing got pitched to him.
What?
They were both doing the other movie together, and so they were a captive audience when the whole idea got thrown at them. So,
yeah, I think that's probably it.
Well,
you were going to say?
Yeah, we should point out, I actually was curious about the box office that weekend, because I figured 1995, I remember that pretty well. You know, I was 20 years old. I was like, and I did not see this movie in the theaters at the time. I was like, what did the box office look like that weekend? And so,
Toy Story.
So Waiting to Exhale was number one. These movies all came out like weeks earlier. Number 2 was Toy Story. Then number 3 was Jumanji. Then Grumpier Old Men, and then Father the Bride, I think, was after that, number 2, part 2. And Sudden Death opened at number 8 that weekend. So there were a lot of movies that people still remember to this day. So pretty tough box office, I would say, for this movie to, you know, finish number 1, let's say, after the
Waiting to Exhale was huge. Father of the Bride and Father of the Bride 2 was huge.
And
Toy
so was
Story
Jumanji
was phenomenal.
And Toy Story and Jumanji. So these are massive movies. Now this is niche. This is, you know, action, but still, like, you know, no shot against this movie going up against, you know, I look at movies today. There's like nothing in the movie theater that's worth watching, and these, everyone's heard of these movies. You know.
Well, back then in like the mid 90s, movie theaters were closed on Christmas Day. So putting out a movie 3 days before Christmas was kind of like not a great sign. This was kind of like a summer action movie that was released in the wintertime, like right before Christmas. So it was almost like forgotten about. You know what I mean? Like it was like,
I'll only add one caveat. In New York City, I think it's open on Christmas are movie theaters and Chinese restaurants. And that's because of Jewish people. But that's true, actually.
Now, I do remember movie theaters being opened in 2001 on Christmas, because I remember after like Christmas night, I remember me and my sister and a friend of mine from college, we went to go see Ali, the Muhammad Ali movie with Will Smith. We went and saw that on Christmas Day.
And that was a big Christmas Day release, I think.
Yeah, it was like a big deal. So, you know, you're kind of like in your 20s and you're like, all right, I'm done with dinner with the family. What else can we do? Hey, let's go to the movies. You know what I
No,
mean?
definitely the Christmas blockbuster was emerging a little bit in this time, maybe a little bit later, but it was definitely a
Right.
thing in big cities like New York and other places. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, all right. So, if you have not seen Sudden Death, I'm just going to let you know right now, we're going to spoil this movie, but you know what? It's been out for 30 years. So
Spoiler alert, is a 30-year-old movie.
Yeah. So one of two things is going to happen. Either you're going to pause this podcast, go watch Sudden Death, and then unpause this podcast and listen to it, or you just don't care and you're going to let us spoil it, or you're going to be like, yeah, I saw Sudden Death like 25 years ago on cable or something, whatever, right? So we're just going to talk about the film because it is like awesome and also bad and also ridiculous at the same time. It's like all of these things, whether intentional or not. But basically, the gist of it is terrorists infiltrate Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, which is at Pittsburgh Civic Arena, a.k.a. the Igloo. They hold the vice president and others hostage and demand money get transferred to their bank accounts, right? So it's one of those like, here's what you're going to do. You're going to transfer this money into our bank accounts, right? Van Damme plays Darren McCord, a failed firefighter turned fire inspector who tries to stop them. Also, his kids are at the game, which heightens the tension and the drama. Because whenever you have little kids in it, whenever you have like a family member, then all of a sudden there's more at stake. He's not just fighting to save the people at the arena. He's fighting to save his children. Oh, and I should probably mention this. The arena is also wired with a bunch of bombs that can go up at any time, that could blow up at any time. So all this stuff is going on. I rewatched this movie today. I have a Blu-ray version of it, which is weird because it didn't have any special features. And I think I bought it used. And I think it's like some weird sort of region-free Blu-ray because it doesn't have any text on the menu screen. It just has like a play button. Like it has like little icons for everything, but like no text. And it has like a million different languages and subtitle options, but like no trailers, no making of features, no whatever. But anyway, so I rewatched it today, and there's like a lot of stuff that I never noticed the first time. And I guess we'll talk about that later. But yeah, so I guess my questions are, and you guys could talk about this because I'm going to talk way too much about this. My questions are: is Sudden Death a good movie? Is Sudden Death a good action movie? Is Sudden Death a good hockey movie? And I put that in quotes because even though it doesn't have to do with hockey, like a movie like Slapshot, like a movie like Goon, like a movie like Youngblood, or even The Love Guru, which a lot of that doesn't take place at a hockey rink, it does have to do with a hockey player trying to be better at hockey. And so, that would still count as a hockey movie. This just happens to take place at a hockey game. So that's why I put hockey movie in quotes, right? Like, what do you guys think? Clemente, you said you never saw this movie before.
No, I saw it Saturday for the first time. So for me, it felt like I was going back 30 years. It was really weird. Like in the sense that like the movie has that 90s feel to it. To the way it's shot, the actors, all that. So it was kind of like a time capsule. So it was kind of cool. And I realized maybe halfway through the movie, I'm watching Die Hard. And because, I didn't know that going in. I didn't do any reading ahead of time. So I just went in blind. I just watched the trailer a week ago and I was like, okay, this is it. I got to watch it. And this was my homework for the podcast. So I watched it with my son, who's 13. He likes action movies. I will say he fell asleep halfway through it. So I don't know what that means for the movie. But is it a good movie? It's okay. It's a good action movie. Is it a good movie? No, because I think I got 3/4 of the way and I started getting a little bit, not bored, but I'm thinking like, this is kind of little bit, there isn't enough here to stretch the story out. There's just so many one-liners that the bad guy, the terrorist can say. There's just so many fight scenes you can include. So after a while, somewhere in the middle, the movie starts to sag a bit, I think. And then there's the finale, whatever, and that's and that's interesting. Is it a good hockey movie? Look, the hockey scenes are pretty well shot. Now, there's a scene when obviously he gets on the ice. I think that's a little crazy. We'll talk about that. It's a little bit ridiculous. Whatever. We'll talk about that. And then, one thing that would make the movie better, I'm not sure. I feel like maybe more player cameos would have been better for me as a hockey fan to actually see more hockey players as opposed to actors playing. Like at one point I see Chris Chelios skating off the ice, but then I watched the credits, like somebody played him. It wasn't like he was in the movie. So I wish there was a little bit more cameos other than Luc Robitaille and a couple of others. I wish there were more players in it.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe good isn't the best word. Maybe watchable. Like it's watchable.
Oh, it's watchable for sure.
Although your son fell asleep, so that's not exactly a ringing endorsement. I mean, a 13-year-old boy, like, hey, let's watch this rated R movie where there's fighting and shit gets blown up, right? You think he'd be all in, like, yeah, right.
And he was all in. I think there's some fight scenes, especially early on. There's heightened tension early on, like how is this going to play out? But then I think the movie sags. I don't know what Tim thinks, but at some point I just feel like, okay, this the kids start to get annoying to me, and the plot starts to get thinner, and it gets a little bit more ridiculous. Like all these things have to happen a certain way. I don't know.
Maybe it needs tighter editing because it's like 111 minutes. It's a pretty long. It's almost 2 hours. It
could be 90 minutes. It'll be fine. Which a lot of movies in the 90s were, by the way, 95 minutes.
90
long.
minutes, so they could just keep turn them over. You can have a bunch of screenings in a day. Now you have these 3.5 hour Lord of the Ring movies, and they can only show them 3 times a day. Tim, what do you think? And especially also what's interesting is that, as we've said a million times, Tim is from Pittsburgh, so he's going to have some extra feels and thoughts about this because him being a Penguins fan and him remembering when this movie was filmed and all that stuff. I'm actually really curious what you think.
I mean, it's arguably the second best movie filmed in Pittsburgh.
After
probably second best. Striking Distance, of course.
That was it's called Striking Distance? I don't remember that.
Well, look it up.
Okay.
It's got another person that this movie is ripped right off of, and that would be Bruce Willis.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Bruce Willis movie. But anyway. Here's the thing. Is Sudden Death a good movie? Yes. If you like action movies, yes, it's a good movie because it has all of the things that you want in an action movie. It has all of the elements. It has all of the feelings, the highs, the lows. It has the fight scenes. It has the tension, and it has a very good villain. Powers Booth plays a great villain.
Yes.
Every movie, every TV show he's in, probably 90% of those roles, he's a villain.
Have you seen
when you see him on the screen, as soon as they show him that he's the bad guy, you're instantly like, it's Curly Bill. This is going to be good.
Have you seen Deadwood, the HBO series from 2005?
Yeah, he's in that.
Yeah, he's one of the bad guys in that.
Main character, practically the main character.
He also oddly played the president on the series 24, which is interesting because here he keeps the vice president hostage, but he was actually president in another show. So
at one point he does. And if you remember, if you go back to the Avengers, when they have the World Security Council in the original one, he's one of the guys on the World Security Council. And then when they did the spinoff with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., he was a main character because he's a Hydra agent working on the World Security Council. So his character, Gideon Malik, on there is a bad guy on there as well. And he plays a bad guy once again. So his character, or his, I don't even know what the right word is for his type of acting, fits well with a bad guy.
His personality, or he's just a good actor. I mean,
come on. The line the vice president says, after he the one guy's having a seizure or whatever, and he just walks over. They're like, we need to get this man a doctor, and he walks over to him and just shoots him. And he's like, not anymore, you don't. So he's just goes down the list, and then the vice president goes, what kind of lunatic are you? And he's like, the best kind. You like
No, but
rafts.
you make a good point. You make a good point, Tim, is that I was a little surprised at they didn't spare people. Like he was shooting people. They were killing people. I never saw
Yeah.
an action movie with so many silencers in it. Like literally, he was starting to kill hostages early. So I was like,
Oh, yeah.
wow. Like usually these movies, there's a lot of talking. There's a lot of like, I'm gonna shoot you and nothing happens. And here it was like, oh, they killed the chef. Oh, they killed his wife. Oh, it's like, oh, they're not joking. Like they're gonna take you out.
Well,
You know,
he shot that Secret Service agent that was having
Right.
the seizure or whatever
Yes.
he was doing.
Yeah.
And then he says what he says, and as he's walking away, he then shoots the next guy in the leg.
Yes.
Just
walks
'cause.
over to the bar.
Just cause, right?
Yeah. And then walks over to the bar and shoots the chef.
Yeah.
It's like all in one sequence. It's like, what kind of
Yeah.
lunatic are you? He's like, the best kind.
Yeah.
And then at some point, the vice president says something like, that was agent blah, blah, blah. He had a wife and a 3-year-old boy and a 5-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
And
his
a
wife
kid
was
on the
pregnant.
way. Yeah.
Yeah. And he goes, so I'll send a card.
Yeah.
I mean, it just like it was just like the perfect, no remorse, completely malicious. I'm getting what I want, and no one's going to stand in my way. Not even Jean-Claude Van Damme.
There's a part where, like in that early on, when he talks about how he's, he basically says, he says to the vice president, you have this money that's frozen, that was whatever, owned by various accounts that you froze for whatever reasons. And we want you to unfreeze that money and transfer it into these bank accounts, right? And then he's like, and we want a third of it by the end of the first period, a third of it by the end of the second period, a third of it by the end of the third period. So it fits in with the hockey game, right? And he says, and if I don't get a third of it by the end of the first, I kill a hostage. End of the second, I don't know if he says like kill another hostage or kill two hostages.
He basically sets the tone saying people are going to die. But then the very moment he said his demands, the first thought in my mind was, well, the money can't move that fast, which is exactly what the vice president then ends up saying.
Right.
And I'm thinking, like, in the real world, you can't move money this quickly because banks don't work like this, especially on I can't even tell you what, is this like a Friday night, a Saturday night? I don't even know what day of the week this is. Like, can you move all this money and make it happen? And so, so there is this tinge of like, oh, people are going to die here because you're not going to be able to move the money fast enough.
Right. And then he says that, and if we don't get the money by the end of the third period, then we're going to blow up the whole building.
Right.
And then a woman says, and I'm paraphrasing, but she says something along the lines of like, I find it hard to believe that a man with well manicured nails and a $10,000 wristwatch would blow himself up. And he just goes, $15,000. Like just referring to his watch, like 15.
Also, he wasn't going to blow himself up. He was going to get out of there, presumably.
Right.
So
right. But that was the funny thing. So, anyways, Tim, you were saying
he gave him the option of like, who do you want me to kill next? Because you're trying my patience, and who wants? What does he say? Something like, who would like to vote on who gets the distinction of demonstrating my resolve or something like that. He's like, do we all agree that the mayor's wife has been the most annoying?
She was whimpering. Yeah.
Like he's going to kill her next. Right. So it's like, but yeah, I mean, he's like the perfect villain for this movie. So back to what I was saying. I think it's a great movie if you like action movies. So that answers the first two questions. Is it a good hockey movie? It's not really a hockey movie, but it's a hockey movie.
Hockey adjacent.
Yeah. So I would put it into the classifications of hockey movies. It's not about hockey, but it has hockey in it. And part of the big thing that gives it a pass above other movies that just have hockey in it is the fact that hockey plays a pivotal role in the storyline in many aspects, because obviously it's the backdrop. The arena is used for a lot of different parts of the movie. Van Damme's playing a character that, works as an employee for the team. They infiltrate the team. They pose as various personnel. You have the players on the ice. He poses as a player at one point, so it's all it's all interwoven. Not to mention they're actually playing hockey. It's real. There's real gameplay going on in some of the shots. Some of it's staged, but a lot of it's real. You have the actual Penguin announcers at the time, doing the play-by-play. The whole world got exposed to Mike Lang at that point, from a national level, to get to see how entertaining it was to watch him do every game, not just a playoff game in a Stanley Cup Final. So yes, I will say it also is a good hockey movie. So I think that checks off all of those boxes for me. I don't know if I can necessarily answer that last question, because to make it a better movie, obviously you can't make it perfect. There are a lot of editing issues in this movie. And many of us that have an affinity for hockey or hockey adjacent movies tend to overwatch these and overwatch them to death, because we're always looking for the little things to make sure it's authentic. And this movie has many, many, as entertaining as it is, it has many holes in the editing, especially in the hockey parts. So yeah, maybe fix that kind of stuff. But overall, I think it's a great movie. So.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the one thing that could make it better is Mario Lemieux would be in it.
I mean, yeah. The time the two biggest players on the team obviously are, Mario and Yager, neither of which are in it. But you do have some of the players that make an appearance.
I think with Mario,
also some of the players' backs of their jerseys make an appearance, but it's just not them.
Yeah.
Didn't Mario take 94, 95 off? Wasn't that the year he sat out?
There's that, and part of the problem with getting even a good hockey shot is, they decided to start filming. Oh, just so happens in conjunction with a little mini lockout.
Right.
So it wasn't like they had a lot of players available at their disposal. So when they reached out to other team members, they were like, "Hey, would anybody be willing to do this?" And a few jumped on board and said, "Yeah, sure, we'll be part of this and be involved." I mean, look, Howard Baldwin was part of making this. His wife is the one that came up with the idea and pitched it to Hollywood to make this movie. So at the time, Howard Baldwin was, within the ownership group of the team. So essentially they could do whatever they wanted. And that's how this all is.
Let me ask you this. They didn't play themselves in the box. They were not.
No.
They were okay.
No, they weren't.
So Karen Elise, she goes by Karen Elise Baldwin, because there's another Karen Baldwin who acts. But anyway, so the Karen Baldwin that wrote the screenplay, she has a very small part at the beginning when they start the ESPN broadcast and they're in the studio, and she says, "Cut to the overhead camera. I want to see. I want us to see what God sees." That's her.
She's in the booth part.
Yeah, so it's a cameo. Okay.
Yeah, so she has just a really small part in it, just at the beginning.
I guess the other big question for me was, I did read about, I read Sal's piece, and given the location and who wrote it, I understand why the Penguins are in the movie, but for the life of me, I couldn't figure out why they were playing the Blackhawks and not maybe a Canadian team, because when the vice president goes to the locker room and gives them like a pep talk, my first thought was, well, these are two American teams. Why would the VP pick this team? And then there's a joke made there about, oh, you're going to say the same thing to the Blackhawks? And he said, yes, obviously.
Yeah.
And he makes
what's the other joke he says?
The Republican Democrat joke.
Republican or Democrat? And they're like, we're Canadian.
Right. And that's funny. Yeah. Yeah. And so part of me is like, okay, but probably the most incredulous thing of this movie, and this is a joke, obviously, is I don't think the vice president of the United States would go to a hockey game. That was part of what I kept thinking. I was like, would the president of the United States go to a hocky game, right? Or the vice
goes
president
to a football game. Why wouldn't he go?
Well, they go to everything, game? But hockey is specific. Is different, right? And so I'm like, I can't remember the last time the president or the vice president of the United States went to a hockey game. And so, and maybe it's never happened.
I'm sure if they got a call from Gary, they would show up.
Probably. This president, yes. But generally, it doesn't really happen. I remember when the All-Star game was in New York, and Mayor Giuliani at the time went to the game. It was like a big deal. It's like, oh, the mayor of New York is at a hockey game, and he was a big sports fan. He was a big Yankees fan, but it was part of it was like, and the security because I know people have been to sporting events where the president's been. I've been to sporting events where the president's been there, and the security is nuts. Like Secret Service basically goes through every single person's stuff before you get in the arena. So when those guys snuck in with those badges, it was very 90s. I mean, today you'd have like a QR code, you'd have scanners, like you couldn't just make a badge at home and sneak into an arena, right? And I think that's part of what Sal was pointing out in some of the slides. It looks like everybody can get into this building that nobody can get into.
That's why you have to watch it with 1995 eyes.
No, I understand. And
Right.
the one thing that holds up though is because they all have cell phones, it works. If they don't have cell phones, which in 95 nobody had, but these guys had them because they're the big clunky phones. Without the cell phones, I don't know how this works, because if Jean-Claude Van Damme had to call him on a payphone from his pager every 5 minutes, this movie would be terrible. Okay. So it works because of the cell phones. In Die Hard, for example, there is none of that, right? There's walkie-talkies, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was years earlier. So.
Well, yeah, like in Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, that only works because one of them is too lazy to go back and get his cell phone.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, he was just like, they walked to the elevator and he's like, nah, we've gone too far. Right. But if he had just turned around, gotten his phone, and then they went to White Castle or tried to go to White Castle, then all of those problems that they had could have been averted, because one could have called the other one and whatever. Right. So yeah, there has to be something that like, cell phones make a lot of it too easy. And now I'm wondering if we're going to see more movies that take place 20 years ago or 30 years ago or whatever, because everything wasn't just so easy as it is now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, nothing has made things so outdated as technology, including cell phones. Like that's made, for example, I always joke around that like 95% of Seinfeld episodes could be solved in 3 minutes if they had a cell phone, but they didn't. So everything is 30 minutes and an ordeal. So
it would just be Jerry going, someone call Kramer and tell him to not do the thing. And then he doesn't do
roll the
thing.
credits. Roll the credits.
Speaking of technology, I'm glad you brought that up, because there's like, he uses like a cordless phone, and then later on he lifts a cell phone. But one nice little nod to technology is like, there's like the computer hacker guy, and he has like the laptop with like all the like words and text and shit on the screen.
With all the bank stuff on it.
Right, with all the bank stuff. But there's one scene where they show him playing a video game, and the video game is Doom, which was like a first-person shooter that came out in like 93 or 94, and it was like huge in the mid-90s because it was a game that you could play on networks and stuff, or you could play against the computer. But it was just funny that he's playing Doom, and I'm just like, oh, yeah, that is so 90s, you know what I mean? Like that he'd be playing that game. I think Sudden Death is watchable, and I like it. Obviously, I'm going to be biased to like it for a lot of reasons, because it's a hockey movie, because it's a martial arts movie. I don't necessarily like Jean-Claude Van Damme, but I think I think he's unintentionally funny. Like in the movies that he's in, I mean, the guy can kick, he can do the splits. Okay, he's got the skills, but like, when he tries to act, it's kind of funny, right?
It's a little wooden.
Did you guys ever see the Street Fighter movie that he did the year before with Raul Julia?
Yes.
I mean, he's terrible in that, but that movie's like so bad it's good. You know what I mean?
So I read that he was obviously not the first choice, that the first choice was Bruce Willis.
For this, for Sudden Death?
Okay. Yeah.
Probably because it was too similar. And they were probably also filming Die Hard 2 at the time, or Die Hard 3.
That's exactly right. And then Stallone and Schwarzenegger were also busy. And so he was like the fourth choice, which at the time, if you ranked action heroes, that makes kind of sense. That makes sense. And so, so he did it. And then the fact that he was Belgian and spoke French, he came across as almost French Canadian, because there's that one scene in the locker room where he speaks to Luc Robitaille in French, right? So I bought it. I was trying to imagine Schwarzenegger doing this, or Stallone, and I don't think it would work, because it would be, I just don't see those people as hockey people.
Right.
And I believe that the way that Van Damme looked, his physique, he could have been a hockey player, potentially. He's a little small, but he could have been. I'm not buying Schwarzenegger as a hockey player ever. So interesting to see who could have played him and how it all worked out.
Yeah, I guess I would revise my answer of what you could do to fix it. The fact that he's like a French Canadian, but he's supposed to be a Yinzer. It's kind of hard to like do a Pittsburgh accent and stuff when you have a thick accent.
French, Belgian. He's a Belgian actor, right?
But in the movie, when the bad guys when they figure out his name and they look him up on the computer,
his name is McCord, which sounds like an American name. I don't know,
but you know what they do is they show a picture of him on the screen with like his different like his vitals basically, and I paused it. And actually, you know what? I paused it. I took a picture of it on my phone. So I'm going to just read to you right now what it said because it was so here. It says here, height 5'11", weight 178 pounds, date of birth 9/29/62, hair brown, eyes blue-green, birthplace Hospital du Scar, like French, Montreal, Canada. And then it shows his address that he's living on 202 Kent Court, Pittsburgh, PA. Right. So it says here that he's born in Canada, in Montreal specifically. So they do work that into his character. Right. And he also makes a comment to Luc Robitaille and to the goalie, Brad Tolliver, who's played by Jay Caulfield. Oh, I used to play a little hockey, a little semi-pro in Canada, but that was a long time ago.
And by the way, 202.
What did you say his address was?
202 Kent Court, which is a real address. I just looked it up. So someone lives at that address. Who knows if that means anything?
Darren McCord lives at that address.
Darren, I should call it. Is Darren McCord there? And only someone who really gets it. I also noticed that sometimes you'll watch a movie and notice certain.
You said it was 202 Kent.
Yeah.
Yes, Kent Court.
Huh. Interesting.
Why? Is that your old address, Tim?
Why yet? No, it's not. My old address. Jeez.
Yeah, he's got a 412 area code. Is that accurate to Pittsburgh?
Yeah,
412.
412 is all.
Okay.
It's all
412-555. No.
Yeah, 555-7293.
It's all.
No, I'm just saying off of Kent, like.
I should have put this in the podcast. You can't see it, but I should have put it in on the slide.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I don't know. I just figured that's to me, and I don't know what it's like now, but to me, that's a little too nice of a neighborhood for an ex-firefighter guy that's now working as a fire marshal,
like a blue collar guy. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, everybody's blue collar in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know. I don't see him up in that neighborhood. That's like,
I don't know. They just made up an address, Tim.
Especially if he's paying child support, because clearly he's divorced. We see that early on when he.
Oh yeah, you know what? I want to talk about that really quick because is Sudden Death a good movie? Yeah, it's watchable. Is it a good action movie? I think so. There's a lot of good fighting in it, a lot of clever like MacGyver stuff that he does to kill some bad guys, because he's basically using his bare hands, his wits, and whatever he can find. Like, it's not like there's weapons lying around. Well, I mean, if he could get a gun, great, but otherwise he's improvising. But a lot of the characters are so one-dimensional. It's like, I understand sometimes you need to have like simple characters because they just move this. Nobody wants the person who's in the scene for 3 seconds and gets killed to be a complicated character. But like, and actually the bad guy is he's not complicated. He's a bad guy, but you
get to see more of him. Though.
Interesting.
You get to know him more. Yeah.
But like when he shows up and the mom is like, oh, it's not your day to have the kids. And he's like, oh, but I got these Stanley Cup Game 7 tickets. And the mom is like, oh, but we're going out to dinner. You can't do this. And I'm like thinking, look, my parents were divorced. If my dad showed up and said, hey, I got Bears tickets or I got Cubs tickets, my mom would be like, cool, just be home before 11 or what, you know what I mean? Like, but I understand that, and it wasn't necessarily a nice divorce. But what I'm saying, and I understand, Tim, you know this. We all know this. Well, I don't know about you, Clemente, but like either you or somebody has like parents who divorced,
Sure.
but like my mom would have never been like, oh no, you can't take the kids to a hockey game because even though it's not your day, you know what I mean? And so,
but there are many, 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 many moms that will.
Right. And so then what happens is then the kids will resent the mom. So, just the fact that she's just like, right. Like, oh my God, you know what I mean? And you think that everybody would be like clamoring to get those tickets. And then even Mike Lang says you can't get tickets to this game. It's
he makes a joke about it. But when she didn't want them to go, all I kept thinking was, well, given what I've seen from the trailer, it's probably the right call not to go to this game. But whatever, it's going to happen, right? So it builds the tension, obviously, to have them in the building. Otherwise, who is he? He's not really there to save 10,000 people, though he is. But they're nameless, faceless people. So the fact that his kids are there, and he clearly told his son, "I don't care if the walls are caving in, you can't move from here." So, which, kind of comes full circle at the end, right? But that makes the stakes higher. The place will blow up. His kids will die.
Did you kind of get the feeling, I'm going off on a tangent here, but it's so related to the movie, because he has a son and a daughter. Do you kind of have the feeling that like they didn't really know what to do with the son? Like his character could have just been eliminated from the movie. And he could
have had one kid. It would have been good enough.
One kid would have been fine. One kid, because the little girl gets taken hostage. The boy just stays in the seat like the dad tells him to. But like I kind of feel like he was because first he's like, all right,
forget about the kid after like 30 minutes. He's not even in the movie anymore. Like in midway through.
and then the FBI agent or the Secret Service agent goes to get him, and he's like, no, I'm not leaving my seat.
Right.
And then at the end, where he just tells him, here, stay with this Secret Service agent while I go save your sister. Right. Like, so he's just not really.
Also, the girl was wearing the hat. I felt like she was kind of important, and he became a prop. Even though in the beginning, you think he's picking up the son to go to the game. Not both of them. You don't know until the daughter runs out with the hat. So I agree. He felt almost like you didn't need him.
Right. And the boy was a little older, and he probably would have fared a little better if he was taken hostage. Maybe not. I don't know. But like, I feel like they just didn't know what to do with him. I remember when I talked to some of the people who worked on the film, some of the hockey players, and they're just like, oh yeah, that boy was kind of a big deal at the time because he was in the movie Sleepless in Seattle. And then they talked about like how he wanted to hang out with the hockey players and how they were teaching him to play cards and stuff. So, I mean, he sounds like a pretty cool kid back in the day, but like his character, it was almost like there was like this movie could have used an edit and maybe a little bit of a rewrite because I don't know. But getting back on track, the one thing that would make Sudden Death a better movie. And now, again, I'm going to spoil this, obviously, or not obviously. The beginning of the movie, you see Darren McCord. He's a fireman. He's pinned under some debris. There's this really bad fire that's going on, although you can't tell because the people outside are kind of walking around like they're not like running around like crazy. I've seen enough Chicago fire on TV to know that they'd be a little more. It didn't seem intense enough outside. You go in, he's pinned under some rubble. He's holding a little boy. The building comes down on him, and then they pull the rubble off of him, and the little boy's dead. And then he just has. Was it a girl?
But same thing. My son said when he saw that, he goes, "How's the kid dead and he's alive? If he covered the kid up." I go,
he covered the kid up, right?
I don't know
because he's the main character. The movie would have been over.
No, I know, but it was almost. But they had to create a very quick way to make him a failed firefighter somehow. And that was
so he has enough knowledge on how to like disarm bombs and knows about flammability and stuff like that, I guess.
Right.
But like at the same time, so he has to have knowledge. But now he's downgraded to fire inspector, right? And he's working as a fire inspector at the game. He gets the tickets. He takes his two kids. The president gets taken hostage, or vice president, etc.
Couldn't you have just ignored that first part, not even include it, and just make him a fire marshal? Don't give him a backstory. He doesn't need a backstory.
It's a plot device. They had to do that. They had to.
Because he had to be a failure.
Yes, because he was a
Oh.
failure. He
I
couldn't
see.
protect that kid. He couldn't save that kid. He was a bad dad. He was a bad husband, the
Right.
whole deal. And he just had all these regrets. So this was all of the plot device to show that he could actually protect his kids. And not only in the process of protecting his kids, he saved the whole city and turned the whole world. And
Right.
that's what it was. That's
So,
why the son was important, because the son was more of an emotional anchor as part of that plot device.
You know,
Like one gets taken,
what you're
the
saying
other
makes sense.
doesn't, but he's also more of an anchor person because he has a job, and his job is to never leave that seat. And he does the entire time. He does what his dad says. He shows that he listened to his dad. His dad was a good dad, all of that. Come
okay.
on. You guys got to see deeper than just the hockey movie part of this. Come on.
Okay, but in movies, so you have an epilogue, or I like the French word for it, the denouement in a movie, right? You have like your rising action, your climax, your falling action, and then your denouement at the end, right? That's that little. I'll give you a perfect example. We've all seen the original Star Wars, right? They get the medals at the end, right?
Yes,
The medal
yeah.
ceremony.
Except for Chewbacca, he doesn't get a medal. But
well, he did like 40 years later, but no,
Okay.
he deserved the medal. He didn't get a medal. But the thing is that scene necessary in the story? Not really. They blew up the Death Star. Good guys win, the end, right? But now you see the good guys. You see that, Luke and Han, they're proud of what they did. R2-D2's been repaired, right? So you kind of get that. It's that like that exhale, right? It's like that loosening your belt after a big meal, right? Like, this is good, right? Like, this is good. Okay, we're happy. There was not a denouement in this movie. There needed, so we talk about how the little girl, who I thought was a boy, but the little girl at the beginning dies. He's trying to save her and she dies. Then he goes to protect his, save his kids, save the arena, save the 20,000 fans, right? There needs to be some payoff at the end. Does he get reinstated as a fireman? Does he, you know what I mean? Does he get some recognition for what he did? And all that happens at the end is that they're wheeling him off on a stretcher. And I think I wrote it down because the little boy says something like, you should have seen my dad. And then the girl says, my daddy's a fireman. And then it just cuts to black. And it's just like, that's not really an ending, right? Does he die from his wounds? What are you exhaling for? Why were you waiting to exhale, Tim?
Because the whole point of this was him justifying himself as a father and having kids, and his kids basically recognized how he actually is a hero and he is a good person and he, was able to save them and he isn't a failure. All of that came to a head. That's right there.
And Tim makes a good point, because at one point when the girl's being held hostage, does she say, "Oh, when my daddy says he's going to do something, he says he's going to come and get me. He's going to do it."
He's going to do it. Right.
There's reinforcements along the way. This was all kind of lost on me. I mean, I got the idea that he's a failure, but I realize now why they did that. And
maybe I've watched this movie too many times.
Well, I mean, when you watch it just once, but I think Sal, like me, wanted the story to be a little stronger. Like, for example, when he's in there's a scene where he goes into an office. Looks like he's in an office, like the owner's office, maybe.
Yeah.
I was scanning the wall to see what trophies were on the wall. I really cared about the hockey stuff as opposed to, the other stuff.
Oh, yeah. No, there was that big photo of Mario Lemieux in an all-star jersey on one of the walls.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe that was really their office. I don't know. I don't know if this was a fake room or real, whatever.
No, I
So-
think they
Just like the
filmed it.
scene towards the end where he's fighting that guy in the training room.
Mhm.
'Cause
Yes.
the old training room at the Civic Arena was garbage. And basically you could tell in there, it's real tiny and tight.
Is that the real
The
room?
machines are on top of each other and everything.
Yeah. Is that the real room then that they were fighting in? Yes.
I don't know if it was, but I heard that room was very small and cramped. So that would make
All I
sense.
would have, sorry, I was going to say though, all I would have done just needed one last scene. Like, where did he go from here?
Like
right?
him in a hospital bed or something with his kids?
No. Could have been one of two things. Could have been just a newspaper headline with a photo of him, his two kids, Luke Robitaille, and the Stanley Cup, like doing a photo op with a headline that says like hero fireman saves Penguins.
By the way, you make
right?
an interesting point, not just on the ending, but the Stanley Cup trophy is not in this movie, if I recall.
No, because nobody won it.
It's not.
But I'm saying it's not even like in the hallway. It's not anywhere. They bring the cup to the game.
It's a flight risk. Yeah, no, I'm kidding.
Yeah. So
no, because once Phil Pritchard heard bomb, he grabbed that thing and left.
Yeah, he booked it. Or the other ending that they could have done is it could have just said like 2 years later or 2 months later, right?
Yeah.
And it could have had the boy and girl outside playing hockey. Actually, you know what it would have done? It would have been like he should have gotten in the ambulance. The ambulance should have screeched away. It would have had a siren, right? Like you hear the siren. You still hear the siren, and then it says 2 months later, you still hear the siren. You see the two kids playing hockey, and then you see a fire engine pull up, and his dad jumps out, and he goes, "Come on, kids, we're like it's." And then they get in the fire engine
show
and drive off.
That he's as opposed to just saying, "My dad's a fireman." Like that's an easy, cheap way
to show
of
that
doing
he basically got his old job back, right? Like, and then that could have been the end, right? Like it just needed something more. And it didn't have that. And I feel like you get that with a lot of these action movies where like the character, and yeah, I do understand what you're saying, Tim, but I feel like it kind of needed that one extra step. That's all.
Agree to disagree. I don't need resolve like that at the end of an action movie like this. Because 9 times out of 10, they're going to make a sequel.
Why?
And you'll get your further storyline in that.
Right.
Although they didn't do a sequel to this, they just made another one, and it was dumb. But anyway.
Well, because basketball doesn't have sudden death. They play the full overtime.
It doesn't really work, right?
Yeah.
Instead we have a basketball game in Kung Fu.
All right, so some fun facts about sudden death that I wanted to share with our listeners and our viewers. So we mentioned this earlier. It was produced by the Penguins owner Howard Baldwin, and it was written by the Penguins, his wife, who also owned the team, Karen Elise Baldwin. So she wrote not the screenplay. She wrote the story. Somebody else wrote the script. Then it was filmed at Pittsburgh Civic Arena, and there are some NHL and ex-NHL players that appear in the movie. So those of you watching, I'll explain who these people are. Those of you listening, I'll just tell you who these people are. So some of the people in this film, you had former Penguins enforcer Jay Caulfield, who played the Penguins goalie Brad Tolliver. It was actually his first on-screen thing. I mean, now, is he still the studio analyst for Penguins games?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but this was his first screen thing that he ever did. Like, he retired. When I talked to him, he said, I retired. I just kind of wanted to stay away from the game. And they called me, they asked me if I'd come and read lines. My wife talked me into it. So Jay Caulfield played Brad Tolliver. Mark Kachowski, who played with the Penguins mainly in the late 80s. I know he has an 87-88 Kodak card showing him as a member of the team. He played a player named Beaumont. He doesn't have any lines, but I think you see him like do something notable. I think he hits somebody open ice in one of the shots. Phil Spano was the hockey consultant, and he also played player number 1. So he's not an ex-NHLer, but he was the hockey consultant, and he grabbed the Penguins jersey, and he was in some of the scenes. Luke Robitaille plays himself, of course, and then Pat Brisson, who is Luke Robitaille's teammate in junior, played, and I quote, player number 2. That's his name in the credits. But Pat Brisson now is probably would we say he is the biggest player agent in the world now for hockey? I mean, he reps Crosby, he reps Kane and Taves, he reps Nathan McKinnon. I mean,
he's like a super agent now.
He's a super agent, right?
Yeah.
And back then he was just he was just probably playing in the minors, but he's a friend of Robitaille, so maybe that's how he got into it. And actually, the way Karen Baldwin explained to me that she took some acting classes and Robitaille was in an acting class with her, and that's how they met. So, 7, 8 years later or whatever, however many years later, now, they own the Penguins, he's on the Penguins, and so he kind of had an in for getting the speaking part in Sudden Death. So I think it's just kind of cool that you got, like an NHL legend, an enforcer, a guy who played maybe a season with the Penguins, and then a guy who never played in the NHL, but is really important to the NHL today. Tim, you're doing that thing. You got any thoughts?
What thing am I doing?
I don't know. Stroking your beard.
Oh, I had an itch.
Oh, okay, never mind. Okay, yeah. Sorry. And then this picture here that I'm showing is again the hockey consultant Phil Spano and Jean-Claude Van Damme in the goalie gear. And so, from what I was told, Van Damme hated wearing the goalie gear. And he hated wearing the goalie skates. So some of the scenes they filmed, when they were able to film him from the waist up, he's wearing tennis shoes and not hockey skates. But you hear that a lot, right? In movies where it's just like, oh, the guy was standing on a box, so he appeared. Oh, perfect example. Speaking of guys standing on the box, Emilio Estevez in The Mighty Ducks. In the scene where he's talking to Mike Modano and Basil McRae, he had to stand on a box, so he was eye level with those guys. So you hear stories about that, or going back to Star Wars, when what's his name? Crap, I can't remember his name now. The guy who played Grand Moff Tarkin in the original Star Wars movie, was that Peter Cushing? Yeah, Peter Cushing.
Ooh,
He was wearing slippers because the boots that he was supposed to wear were too tight for his feet. So on any shots, far shots, he had to wear the boots, but the waist up shots or whatever, he was wearing slippers, right? So same idea. So just kind of funny when you hear stuff like that. As Tim mentioned earlier, we had the Penguins play-by-play announcer. So we had Paul Steigerwald and Mike Lang. So Steige was doing the color commentary, which is strange because he was the radio play-by-play guy at the time. Yeah, he was doing radio.
I don't know when this came out. I think they were both on TV.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So he wasn't doing they didn't have an ex-player doing color commentary.
No, these two were together in the booth on TV broadcast for a while.
Did not know that. See, I learned something new, right? That's cool. So, so you had Mike Lang and you had Paul Steigerwald, and I think they were great. Of course, when I saw this in theaters, I'm just like, oh, I knew who they were. You know what I mean? Or at least I knew who Mike Lang was because I remember watching, whenever I saw a Penguins game on Sports Channel back in the day, they would always tap into their broadcasters. So, especially that 92 final, I got really familiar with, or the playoffs in 92, because the Penguins went so far, and in 91. So, heard their announcers a lot. So, when I was at the movie theater back in 95, I was like, oh, hey, that's Jay Caulfield. Oh, hey, that's Mike Lang. I didn't know Steigerwald at the time, but, and of course I knew Luc Robitaille. It's kind of like, whoa, right? Like there's some hockey people that I know in this movie. Now, as Tim mentioned, they were supposed to use actual game footage. The plan was that the 94-95 season was going to start on October 1st. One of the first games that season was going to be the Penguins playing at home against the Blackhawks. They were going to shoot film footage of that game because at the time, this was before digital. So if you were shooting a movie, you were shooting it on film. And so what they were going to do is they were going to set up cameras and get film of the Penguins Blackhawks game and then use that for cutaway shots and some of the hockey action that you'd see in Sudden Death. And of course, then they'd have 20,000 people. They'd have a packed arena, right? Especially for a Blackhawks game, Blackhawks and Penguins. But the lockout happened, so they had to get creative. So one thing they did was they were still able to use the Pittsburgh Penguins, like the Penguins who wanted to play. And they did an exhibition game against the Cleveland Lumberjacks, which was their minor league team. They put the Lumberjacks in Blackhawk jerseys. I spoke with the former Penguin. At the time, he was a Lumberjack, Ian Moran, who ended up playing for the Penguins for a couple of years. And he said that they gave him the Chris Chelios jersey. And I said, oh, did you call dibs on that? He said, no. He says, I shot the same way as Chelios. I'm a defenseman. So they just kind of tried to make it kind of make sense. Like, you shoot this way and you play defense here, you're getting this jersey. You're playing Chelios. But then the footage wasn't enough. So they had to go back and they did another exhibition game between the Johnstown Jets and the Wheeling Thunderbirds of the ECHL. And they put, I don't know which team they put in the Penguin jerseys and which team they put in the Blackhawk jerseys. But so they basically had two exhibition games because they thought that would actually be a little more competitive than the Penguins versus the minor league Penguins, where pretty much everybody knows everybody, because they said it was kind of more just like a shinny game and it was a lot of fun. And then for a lot of the key scenes, the close-ups, the scenes that actually had like a story hook, like Luc Robitaille scoring his goal and such, they used hockey playing extras for those. So they had like a lot of guys that would come to the rink and they might say, hey, Van Damme's going to be running by and we just need hockey going on in the background, right? So then they'd had extras do that. So that's how they were able to cobble together the different hockey footage, was from two different exhibition games and then just a lot of shots that they set up with extras. So I think that's kind of cool. I mean, I love hearing about stuff like this.
One of the fun things to do is go through the movie when they show crowd shots and pause it and count all of the cardboard cutouts.
Yeah, there are cardboard for sure.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because one thing they talked about was they were not planning on casting extras. Like, so they were doing these exhibition games and then they had to bring in extras, right? They had to have a full arena, right? Or at least one side of the arena had to be full. So they had to cast 10,000 extras for a lot of the filming, and they, peppered in those cardboard cutouts. And one of the guys who was playing as one of the hockey playing extras, not an ex-pro player, but just an amateur player, but he told me this great story. And he said that when they opened the roof and they had the helicopter flying overhead to shoot footage, said that the wind from the helicopter blew those cardboard people up into the air. And then he said, then they fluttered down. Like, you ever see like a tree? It has like those spinners that fall down with the seeds. And he says, so they like slowly were falling down to the ice. And he says he's just standing in his crease because he was playing one of the goalies. And he looks up and he just sees these cardboard people fluttering to the ice. And he said it took like 4 hours for them to like pick up all the cardboard people and reset them. And that is just such a funny story, right? Because of, what they did, unintended consequences, right? Like, yeah, let's put this big helicopter it's going to generate all this wind. And what's that going to do to the cardboard people? It's going to make them fly. So I think we have to address some of the elephants, or should I say penguins, in the room, because there's some absurdity in this movie. And I think the most iconic
arguably the greatest fight scene in all of movie history.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Definitely in this movie, for sure.
In this movie,
of all the hockey movie fight scenes, this is one of them. How about that?
I don't know, man. Slap shot.
Slap shot is very good. But
I didn't say it was one of the best. I said it's one of them.
Yeah.
Involving a mascot, for sure.
Well, yeah. Yeah, okay.
It's the best hockey fight involving a mascot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think that's right.
So in the movie, the Iceburgh, the Penguins mascot, though they call him Icy in this movie.
Icy, yeah.
Even though it says Iceburgh on the back of his jersey.
Yeah,
or her jersey.
Issue.
Right. Yeah, I don't know why they did that. But what happens is basically a woman who's working for the bad guy. She kills the woman who is in the mascot costume. And then puts on the costume, kidnaps the daughter, and then ends up fighting McCord in this very brutal, very grisly fight
In the kitchen.
in the kitchen
Yeah.
of the arena. Now, wait, guys, didn't this almost, like, I was watching this today, and for like a moment, I thought I was watching a live action Itchy and Scratchy. Right? Because like he's beating up on this penguin, and then he like grabs like its hand and like puts it in like the hot oil,
the
deep fryer, and like all these things. And I go, oh my God, this is like Itchy and Scratchy. And it like grabs like the red
every
pepper.
Peter and the chicken fight on Family Guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's was
every one of them.
It's like this knockdown, drag out fight, you know, and then Icy picks up a meat tenderizing hammer and tries to hit him with it. And then he grabs like a bottle of red pepper and throws it into the mouth of the penguin, because that's where the eye holes are. And then she goes to cut him with stab him with the knife, and he grabs a chicken bone or like a rib bone or something and stabs her with it.
That was a different fight.
Different fight. Okay, sorry. They're all kind of.
So I'll mention this. The thing about this fight, it got like a little bit comical, because it was like, how many kitchen utensils can they use? The only thing that was missing was Jean-Claude trying to bite like the penguin's like hand or whatever. But the thing I found weird was then the fight scene ends with her going through what looks like a dishwasher.
It's the dishwasher, yeah.
But then like when he comes back, she's gone. I'm like, well, what happened there? Like, wasn't she like missing? She wasn't there anymore. She was in the machine. Maybe I'm misremembering.
No, because somebody hid the body, because like they'd kill somebody. Because like here's like another quick continuity error. Remember when the little girl, she has the fight with her brother, and she runs into the bathroom and she sees Icy.
Yes.
And then she opens the stall.
In the stall, yeah.
Has the dead woman who's supposed to play the mascot.
Falls out, yeah.
Falls out. And then she screams and runs away. And then
people walk in.
She grabs her, but grabs her and says, "Say a word, kid, and you're dead." Right?
Yeah.
But then the dead woman is in the closet of the owner's office.
Who put her there?
Because he opens the closet and she's there, and he just says Joan or something like that.
I thought she was in the bathroom though. What?
Yeah, but all the henchmen are going around cleaning up the mess, so the people in the crowd don't notice.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So they're moving the bodies around, right?
Okay.
So
but they don't
you just have to make that assumption. No, you have to make that assumption.
Make that assumption, right? Because because when he says there's, I just got into a fight, and the guy goes, "Show me," and he's obviously one of the bad guys, but he's wearing a red blazer, so he looks like one of the security guards. Right? Yeah, and then the body's gone, and I think she was strangled also by the part of the mask, because when it's pulling her,
so that's a good point.
Yeah, it gets caught. And it's like it's torn.
Yeah.
And it's like caught under her neck, and
she
it's choking her out.
Yeah, he chokes. Right.
But it's an Itchy and Scratchy fight, because then he pushes her into like a fan. Is it like over an oven or something? It's like the ventilation fan.
The oven.
So so the penguin gets hit with an exhaust fan and gets her hand put into the deep fryer, and pepper thrown in the eyes, and she picks up a hammer and
it was Three Stooges like parts of it.
You know what it reminds me of? It's like the beginning of Naked Gun, when all the things happen to O.J. Simpson.
Like I have to rewatch that.
Like all the opening sequence, or like a million different ridiculous things happen to him over and over.
It was a little bit
again.
comical, though. It was fun to watch. I will admit, the fight was fun to watch.
Absolutely,
I agree with you.
Never see a mascot get.
What'd your son think?
Punched.
Was he awake for that part?
He liked the fight. Like he thought it was good, and maybe that's the demo. But you're right. The scene where the mascot ends up in the fan belt. I thought she was going to just get beheaded, but then it didn't happen. It was like just the top of the costume got chewed up a bit. So I'm like, well, what's the point of that?
Because if you look in the costume, the beak, the top part of the beak and up is above the head.
Okay.
So because when he sees her, when she's got that meat tenderizer and she's like down on top of him, and he looks up and the camera takes the angle of his eyes, and you see her eyes in the mouth. So if you think about it, so that means the top of her head is here. So the top of the beak and up was all foam, which
Right.
is what makes it funny, because when they start the fight, like she pulls the gun when he finds the girl's hat in the elevator.
Yes.
Yep.
She pulls the gun, and like he goes to kick the gun, and then they start fighting, and he's like punching her in the face, but it's just this foam mask, and he's not doing any damage at all other than
Right.
twisting the mask.
Yeah,
he
and
like
it's
hits
funny.
her a couple times, and she's just standing there like, "Come
Right.
on."
Yeah, and it's funny because the penguin, like, because it just has that expression, right? Like, you didn't hurt me.
Yeah.
I think what was I gonna say? All right, so I can believe that a woman can be a badass martial artist. I used to study karate. I knew a lot of women who were badass martial artists. I could believe that she could be a better a better fist fighter than a firefighter, even though this guy does crazy kicks and stuff, and that she can even be stronger than him. But what I can't believe is that she could do all of these things in a costume, right? Like, it's just ridiculous, right? Like, mascots have trouble, like, maybe not
Moving.
trouble walking, but it's hard to see. They're hot. They're kind of confining in like the movements that they can do. And here they're going toe to toe. I get it. There's suspension of disbelief. But it just, I'm like watching this. I'm like, damn, this woman can do everything. Like, she's as strong as he is, if not stronger, right? And a better fighter, and doing it all in a costume. That's crazy. Like, I guess that's the bridge too far.
Part of the editing thing on this is another scene where there's some editing issues, because when it first reveals to him that it's a woman, kind of a woman, and even though he knows, because he says it earlier, when the kid's talking about he doesn't care about some fat guy in a smelly penguin costume or whatever.
Right.
And he's like, that girl over there is who's in that costume. And, but you know, to the audience, they show the hand with the manicured nails, like on the counter when the glove gets knocked off. But then the next thing, the hands are grabbing him around the neck, and clearly those are guys' hands, because they go from being like dainty hands to being these giant mitts that have their fingernails painted red.
It was a stunt
and
double.
It's like on his neck, and then it shows her hand down again, and it's like a little dainty hand.
Also,
and then when it grabs him again, it's these giant mitts again.
By the way, also, is the implication that the original woman in the costume is a love interest of his, or that's not a thing?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
You know, I want to talk.
Maybe.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's another problem that I have, right?
It's
like
a
when I talk
vagary.
about,
It's a vagary.
Well,
Yeah.
but so here's another problem. So remember how I said how the ex-wife, how like she's just like cartoonishly bad, like, oh, you can't take the kids to game 7.
And that guy is her boyfriend, presumably. He's that guy in that.
And he
scene
actually seems cool. He actually seems nice. He's like, hey, what's up? Yo,
yeah,
you
he
know,
was nice. Yeah, he was nice.
Are those Penguins tickets? You know, he's just like, he doesn't, you know, he probably gets it. Like, if I insist that we go out to dinner, the kids are going to hate me, and then I'm never going to be their stepdad, right? Like, so the woman who is in the icy costume. So here's another problem that I have. And this is a very, most people are not going to notice this, but like when he introduces her to the daughter, you never see the woman's face. She just walks in, back of the head,
barely,
takes the girl by the hand, they walk off. And then you kind of see her from the side. She has the costume on. And then she, like, you kind of see her from the side. She says, oh, I gotta work now. Right. And she puts the thing, right. So like, you never get to know her. So you don't feel bad. And you almost don't recognize her when you see her dead and she falls off the toilet.
I assumed it was her based
don't get attached to her. And I think that's bad, because you look, people are going to die, and that sucks, and that's part of these types of movies, but you don't really feel for her. And I feel like that's a problem, right? Like, because she's a victim, and so this should be really horrible.
No, she becomes totally secondary. It's like, I don't even care that she's dead, because.
And then when McCord finds her in the closet, and he's just like, oh, Joan or whatever, I forget her name, but like, because it's not really memorable, but like he puts her on the floor, and I'm like thinking, if this was my friend, I would have put like a towel or a blanket over their body. You know what I mean? And even like they show like in that last shot when he's in the owner's office, she's in the foreground. Her dead body's in the foreground, and he runs out the door in the background. So she's like, I mean, things are not placed in the foreground for no reason, right? Like they could have just put the camera, not had her body in that shot, right? And he runs out. But so it's like, dude, that's your friend. Like, if he had, even if he had just done like a little thing, like maybe make the sign of the cross, not that I'm deeply religious, or just show that there was some
connection,
something.
some emotional connection,
emotional connection. Like, oh God, this is, you know what I mean? Like,
no, there's none of that. It's almost like she's just like any other goon who gets killed. That's what,
right.
The other thing that was weird was you just mentioned that scene where she walks away with the kid. My first thought, maybe because I have a daughter as well as a son, but I'm like, why doesn't the girl go to the locker room too? And then considering how much of a larger role the girl gets in the movie, I'm like, the girl should have gotten in the locker room with the brother, considering the brother spends most of the movie just watching the actual game.
Right.
It was very weird that she was removed, maybe because it was to introduce this female mascot character who then we don't even really know much about anyways. So it was done in a very weird, quick way, and maybe that's the problem with the movie. They're trying to jam in too much,
right?
To the story. You want to develop a story, great, but you know what? And then maybe there's too many characters. Like there's definitely too many goons. Like
way too many. And then he just got goons that just kind of show up out of nowhere. Like later on, there's that one guy. He looks black or half black or whatever. He's got like the Hawaiian shirt. And I'm like, where did this guy come from? And we'll get to that because he's in a pretty memorable scene. But one thing I wanted to point out, because I talked about the chicken bone or the rib bone.
Yeah.
And Tim astutely pointed out that was a different bad guy or goon or whatever.
Different fight.
There's something interesting.
It was the guy that names his daughter, even though he never said his name. And that's what he like. Now I know he's one of the bad guys. And that's when the fight starts.
And the bad guy says, "Oh, I have the habit of doing that all the time," and that was stupid. That should have been McCord saying, "I never told you my daughter's name." Like it would have been better if he kind of had that, because he's in the foreground, and if he kind of had that like, "Oh shit, aha" moment, like because McCord's like right in front, right facing us, right, like, and that would have been better than the guy going, I do that stupid thing all the time, right? Like
he flipped the script though. He saw how he paused. And he was just like standing there, and he's just like, "Oh crap, I did it again, didn't I?"
Right, like I said, too much.
He outed himself right off the bat. He's like, "Well, I guess we're gonna fight."
So this is a little thing because McCord plays an ex-fireman, and there's two things in this scene that I like. I kind of rewound because I go, "Oh, that's actually really smart writing," and it's something you almost wouldn't catch when he has the goon and he's burning his head against the fryer, even though all the kitchen staff is sent home, they still have the boiling oil. They still have the fryer going.
Nobody cleaned up. Nobody cleaned
right.
up. Right.
And so he's pushing his head against the thing, and he's asking him questions, and he's holding him down, and he says, "In 3 seconds, you're going to lose your ear." And I'm thinking a fireman would know that. He would know how long it would take for flesh to burn off of a face, right? Like, so I thought that was a nice touch. And another thing, after he kills the guy, he opens, I think, the dishwasher or something, and he takes his hand because his hand is cut, and he burns his fingers 2 times to cauterize the wound on his own hand. And I thought, oh, that's what he's doing. Again, smart thing. He has a cut that's bleeding, and then he knows to burn his own flesh to cauterize the wound. And so that's like something you would never pick up on, or maybe you would, but I like stuff like that. Because then it shows that the character is actually a little more who they say they are, you know what I mean? And not just wearing a fireman's uniform.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure they had people on the set to give that kind of advice, because you wouldn't know that.
So we got to talk about the scene where he puts on the goalie gear and sneaks out into the game and on the ice. So McCord's being chased.
This is the jump the shark moment, I thought, in the movie.
It is. This is like where you can only suspend disbelief for so long, and it's a good thing that he had that little exchange with Brad Tolliver, and he's like, "Oh well, I'll come after the rink sometimes, and I'll show you how we play, how we really play, right? Because I'm a goon and I'm missing a tooth or whatever, right?" So Jay Caulfield plays the goalie. Goalies has a fever of 104. We know this because Mike Lang says it about 7 or 8 times in the movie.
It's true.
Dude, when I had I had a fever of 104 one time. My grandmother literally put me in a cold bathtub. Okay.
You can't stand up with 104
yeah,
feet.
104 is not like, oh, can you play the third period? 104 is like your grandmother is soaking you in a bathtub and pouring ice.
I think you hallucinate at that point. You start
Dude,
to.
I was hallucinating. I don't know if I was hallucinating, but I remember like just like 104.
Well, the funny part about this scene is that no one knows it's him, and he also plays for a while, makes a great save. No one recognizes him, but this goon figures out it's not him, but nobody else does.
So to give our listeners just a little bit of the backstory for those of you who haven't watched the movie yet in 30 years or and not about to. So he's trying to escape the bad guys, right? In the meantime, Caulfield's character, the goalie, Brad Tolliver, says to the coach, I feel bad. I need to lie down, right? So they take him out. They put in Ken Reggett, who's, Ken Reggett. Okay. That actually would probably be my first choice. But anyways, so totally underrated goalie. So anyways, so then you see Tolliver lying on the table with an oxygen mask on. He's in the locker room.
He's in uniform.
He's in full uniform. He doesn't even have his mask all the way off. His mask is just up over onto his forehead. So his mask is lifted just enough to put on an oxygen mask. Then Van Damme runs in, sees him there, and then he has enough time to take all his gear off, put it on, and then skate out onto the ice. The coach then says, are you feeling better? And he's like, just nods his head. He's like, well, then get the hell out there, right? And then he puts him in the game. So that's the whole jump the shark, suspension of disbelief, whatever you want to call it, right? Because now we have 5'7" Van Damme playing 6'4" goaltender, which it doesn't make sense, right? Then, like Clemente said, he makes a big save, but also he goes out and first he knocks over the skater in one play. Yeah, it's silly. And then and so anyway, so he decides after he makes that save, he decides I can't stay in this game anymore. I mean, because he's got a mission to do, right? Sure, he could play the rest of the game and he'd be safe, but he's got to disarm all the bombs, right? He's going around, he's disarming the different bombs. Also another thing, because he's a fire inspector, so he kind of figures out where would be the best place to plant the bombs. And so he guesses, he pulls a map of the stadium, and then he kind of figures out what would do the most structural damage.
Well, we should point out too that the scene that you're showing now, he starts the fight because he knows the period is ending, and he doesn't really know about each period though, right? Does he start the fight to stop the clock? Is that why he starts the fight, or to get thrown out? I mean,
I think he knows that he has to get out of the situation, because not so much he's afraid of playing hockey, but because he has to save his daughter.
So I think this movie would have worked if this whole scene is cut out, or is the goal is to get him on the ice to make it more of a hockey movie? You know what I mean? Why does he need to be on the ice? I didn't see that coming at all.
I feel like they tried really hard to shoehorn as much hockey into this as possible. And I like that movie for this reason. But then at the same time, I feel that they did some things really accurately, and then they did some things ridiculously, right? Like when he starts the fight, the coach yells at him. He goes, Tolliver, that's a $1,000 fine. Right. Tim, didn't the coach remind you of the coach from Letterkenny?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The Letterkenny coach, what used to be the Penguins coach, because he's got the brown hair, the mustache, and he looks like he's about to kick something at any moment, and he's screaming, right? So
yeah, I was waiting for him to kick a garbage can. Right?
Yeah. So what happens is he skates out. This is Van Damme's character, McCord, pretending to be Brad Tolliver, the Penguins goalie. After he makes that big save, And then he does sign language. He just points to his son in the audience and does sign language for "I love you," which is probably another thing that could have been cut, but that's something that the director was fond of. But anyway, he grabs the first player that he sees and he punches him, and then a brawl breaks out. And I'll tell you why I like this scene. I like this scene because the player that he's punching is wearing number 22, and that's Christian Ruutu. I have no ill will towards Christian Ruutu, other than the fact that he's the guy that the Blackhawks got for Dominik Hasek. Okay, now technically, no. Blackhawks traded Dominik Hasek for Stefan Beauregard, then traded Stefan Beauregard for Christian Ruutu. But in all intents and purposes, that's who we ended up with, right? So I never liked Christian Ruutu because he just reminded me of the player that we didn't have, which is, can you imagine that? Like, do you guys have that experience? Like, did you see a player on one of your teams and be like, you're the bag of laundry we got in exchange for that future Hall of Famer?
It happens. I mean,
yeah, it happens, right?
I can't think of anybody specifically, but I'm sure over the years there were players I'm like,
I can.
Right.
You know, but that always happens where there's like that player reminds you of the player you don't have, basically.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, so seeing Christian Ruutu, even though it's not him, getting clocked by not really Christian Ruutu, getting clocked not by or by Van Damme's character in the movie, just kind of makes me smile a little bit.
So do you know if that was Van Damme on the ice, but then when he makes the save, that's somebody else, obviously?
Probably. I mean, they got stunt doubles and stuff
and
like
they're
that,
wearing masks, which is great because in the back and they're wearing masks, you can easily cover it up and without anyone noticing.
Yeah, if the goalie dips his head enough, you can't see his eyes, and they can get away with that stuff. Yeah,
I mean, 10,000 people didn't know it was him. I'm sure the players in the ice.
The friggin' coach didn't know it was him and Reggett when they high five on the way, or they tap sticks on the way back into the. They change, right?
He's got everyone fooled, right? But then that was funny though. He does a sign language thing, and the son then I thought reacted in a way like that's my dad, but then he just still sat there. Like, I don't know. Like, it was very strange.
Because he wasn't supposed to move. I know.
This is the most obedient kid on the planet. I got to tell you, because Tim, you got
the sign language thing was important. I know you don't want it in and you want to cut it out, but it was important because earlier in the movie, his daughter taught him that very thing.
Yes, so I got that.
He uses it later on
because he makes
to not only basically say, "Hey, I'm going to win and I'm going to save everyone," but also to let them know, "Hey, it's me. It's not Tolliver. It's me down here." And
even though the son doesn't know they're in trouble, or does he know that? Doesn't even really know it yet. You know what I mean? Like,
he doesn't know until the people are evacuating the arena and he stays put.
Right.
I think he's smarter than that. He knows something's going on. He just also knows that he will be murdered if he leaves that seat.
Well, right. He's terrified about leaving that seat. I mean, that's how the movie basically ends. We know at the end he says that I didn't move.
I didn't move. Yeah. So he gets kicked out of the game. He goes back to the locker room, and then the goon in the Hawaiian shirt chases him, and then he kicks the goon in the neck or in the chest. I don't know. With he's still wearing his goalie gear. By the way, this still shot that I'm showing you right now, you actually don't see it from that angle in the movie. It's like a quick cut where it's closer, and you don't see like this full wide shot. So I think it's just an interesting scene because you don't actually see it from this angle. This is from a press kit that I bought because I bought it because it had pictures that I wanted to use for my hockey news story. And when you get a press kit, those pictures are cleared to use for publication. So it just made sense. Plus it's a collectible. And, when you have like hockey movies, like you really don't find stuff for Slapshot, right? Like you don't really find stuff for Youngblood. I mean, they're press kits and stuff, but you know what I mean? Like the stuff like Star Wars is going to get a press kit, and the stuff like Sudden Death is going to get a press kit, but it's not going to be the same. You know what I mean?
By the way, this would be a fun picture to get autographed because there's a lot of white in it, and so it's very. It would an autograph would stick out on here if he had a Van Damme's autograph on a photo like that.
Yeah. So okay, so he gets kicked out. He runs back, then he's able to get changed pretty quick. And then he does some stuff, and he he rappels down from the roof. Like he goes out to the roof, fights a bad guy on the roof. They open up the roof, and then the bad guy falls onto the scoreboard, and it blows up, and then he makes a bomb so he could get his way into the owner's box.
Now let me ask you this: I feel like the whole point of the movie was for them to open the roof. Like I feel like the movie was made for that scene. But why can't he just take the elevator and go up? Because the key fell down the elevator shaft.
Because the key fell down, right? So he can't.
Okay.
He can't get in. But and Tim.
Plus, they made the Civic Arena just for this movie, so they could open it.
They could open the roof, and
And
it didn't exist prior to that.
First intermission, they have the roof open and they're shooting off fireworks. And Tim, you had a story about that. So in the first intermission, they had the roof open. You see fireworks shooting out of the Civic Arena. I've never seen a fireworks show at a hockey game. Well, actually, no, I take that back. Chicago Wolves do a fireworks show at the beginning of every hockey game. Shout out to the Chicago Wolves.
But indoors or outside? Outside.
Indoors.
Oh, indoors.
And in the White Sox, the Chicago White Sox baseball team, they always do fireworks on Saturday nights, and they're pretty awesome, actually. So.
Yeah, but the story that I told earlier actually was part of. So everybody knows this was the thing. CBS News in Pittsburgh did a thing on this about a month or so ago. And in the story, they were talking about how the executive director of Pittsburgh Film Office was interviewed during this. And she essentially said that nobody was aware that they were going to have fireworks going off at 2:00 in the morning for this movie. So it ended up waking a ton of people up and scared the crap out of a lot of people, who then called 911. So the next day, I guess the mayor's office, who back then it was Tom Murphy, called the Pittsburgh Film Office and was just like, yeah, you need to go over there or tell whoever's in charge they're not doing this at all. Because nobody told us, we weren't ready for it, all this kind of stuff. And I guess Howard Baldwin had said in an interview before that they evacuated the hotel that was across the street, which I think was the Hilton, right across the street from the Civic Arena, because nobody made the hotel aware that they were going to do all this stuff. And they thought something bad was happening across the street because there's all sorts of fireworks and explosions and everything else. And so they evacuated the hotel too. So
that's an interesting story. As I was watching it, just to piggyback off your comments, we should also point out this was 6 years before 9/11 happened.
Mm-hmm.
And as someone I was there when it happened, pre 9/11, this was the stuff of movies, totally. And if you were doing this movie today, for example, you'd have to notify everybody because people would just assume it was a terror attack. America is not immune to that. But in pre-01, this was just stuff of movies. And then when 9/11 actually did happen, people were like, this is like a movie because this could not be real. This stuff doesn't happen in America. And so it's just interesting because we mentioned in the pregame, before we in the pre-show, there's that scene where all these bombs go off in the parking lot and all these cars are on fire, which I assume are real cars on fire, right? And that had to be kind of a sight to behold as well. And I'm not sure if it's the same night as the fireworks in the movie. It is, but I'm sure this was filmed during various days. But it's got to be an ordeal to be able to do all that stuff and not have people think it's real in the process.
It's a lot of noise for sure. Oh, one other thing I just want to say about the fight that breaks out when when Van Damme's character grabs the guy and punches him, the guy goes from wearing a Cooper helmet to a Jofa helmet back to a Cooper helmet because they like shot it from different angles and had like different extras or whatever. So it's just kind of something that I caught and thought was funny. And from what I understand, there was more fight footage that, speaking of like the Naked Gun, isn't that the one that ends with that big fight in the baseball game?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't think of that, right? Like, so anyways, there was like a big fight and I guess they cut most of it out, but yeah, you see them piling on top of each other. So some of the funny quotes as we wind this episode down, because it's almost as long as the movie itself, if not longer, but that's okay because this has been a fun conversation. But the bad guy, the main bad guy, says, "I wonder who gets the cup if I blow up the building before the game is over." One of the Secret Service guys says to the protagonist, "Have you had any contact with the aggressors?" And the good guy says, "I killed 2. Is that contact?" Which is such a great comeback, right? Have any contact with the aggressors? I killed 2. Is that contact? And then when Paul Steigerwald says to Mike Lang, "You don't have to think, Mike. This is hockey." So there's a lot of quippy one-liners, or a few, maybe not a ton, but there's some funny stuff in there, or humorous stuff that I liked from this movie. And then just some of the crazy stuff, because like Clemente brought up like the blowing up of the cars, and like I forgot how much happens in this movie, right? Like we talked about, like maybe there was just too much going on and too many, the movie was kind of long and kind of dragged and it kind of lagged. I mean, it's like the bad guys thought of everything, right? Like their initial plot to infiltrate the arena only works because everything goes right for them, from setting up fake road construction to killing 2 security guards to kidnapping the chef's wife to the chef doing what he's supposed to do to help the bad guys get in. Like all these things have to work. If like one of those things didn't happen, there'd be no movie, right? So there's like a lot of things that had to go right. But then after that, pretty much anybody can get into the civic arena, right? Because like you see like good guys go in there and more bad guys go in there. So it's just like, okay, they had all this tight security, but then now it's like everybody's going in there just whenever they feel like it. The hero gets his ass kicked by a woman in a penguin costume, or anybody in a penguin costume, because I think it'd be pretty hard to fight in a mascot costume. And then we got a rocket launcher shooting down a helicopter, a rocket launcher blowing up a marquee sign, half the cars in the parking lot getting blown up, 12 bombs planted around the arena. When did they have the times to plant those bombs? Did they do it ahead of time? Did they do it a week ahead of time? Did they do it 20 minutes before puck drop? Because they show like 3 hours before puck drop, 2 hours before puck drop, 20 minutes before puck drop, right? Like, so when did they have the time to do that, right? And then they like, there's a scene where like a Zamboni is like filled with good guy Secret Service agents, and it's like driven out of the arena and like crashes, and then they open it up and like the dead bodies fall out of it. Like it's like, okay, like it's especially since like, here's the other thing. I guess we could spoil it. The double agent, right? That's another thing I didn't put on this list. We had that double cross, right? Where the good guy is actually the good guy Secret Service guy is actually a bad guy, right? But like his number 2 guy says, "Sir, you're going to want to see this," right? And then in the next shot, you see them driving to the stadium. They get out of the car, and then you see the Zamboni drive out of the stadium, hits a parked car. They open it up. The agents fall out of the dead agents that they sent in to infiltrate fall out of it. Like, how did he, like, when he said, "Sir, you need to see this," it's like the Zamboni, was it just driving down the street and he took him to it? You know what I mean? Like it didn't make sense. Did you pick up on that or no?
No.
Like usually when you say you got to see this, like you would think they would have been there. Like, sir, you need to see this now. And if he turned and looked and saw the Zamboni coming out, it'd be like, okay, that's immediate. But the fact that they had to drive to get there and then that happened, it's just like, well, wait, so you already saw this Zamboni with a dead guy driving it? Like it didn't make sense. It's like they just had to be like, hey, this is a hockey movie. Let's put in a Zamboni somehow.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. Then we have the scoreboard blow up, and then we have a helicopter crashing at center ice, right? So there's just a lot of crazy stuff going on in this movie. Maybe too much crazy stuff, but Tim, any thoughts on the craziness?
I just like all the death scenes. Like the way he kills all of the bad guys. Like everybody's different. There's like a whole different signature to everything. The double agent you're talking about dies the most epic way when he squirts him with the squirt gun that turns into a flamethrower.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best.
But that doesn't kill him because like a minute later, his face is like burned and he goes after him and then they fight again.
Yeah, he's like melting, but he's still alive. Yeah.
I mean,
which doesn't make sense because his whole body was on fire.
And then it wasn't.
Then it wasn't, yeah. Well,
we've already established there's continuity issues. And then like earlier when we were talking about when he was fighting homeless Willy Wonka and he killed him with the chicken bone, that guy, so just to clarify, when he's putting his head down, he's not putting his head on a fryer. He's putting it on the dry ice plank.
Mm.
So, and I can tell you from being around and using dry ice, that most definitely would burn you and melt your ear off. Not melt it, but would do some damage. But yeah, it's a dry ice. It's one of those dry ice pads.
What would you use that for in a kitchen?
Flash freezing.
Really?
They store meat in it, right? Or
you would use. They do like flash freezing things for things you're cooking and various stuff like that. So, but yeah, that's what that kind of thing was. But yeah, that guy gets stabbed with chicken bone. The Iceburgh lady gets choked to death and strangled by a dishwashing machine. So it's like there's just ridiculous ways of killing all of these people. The main bad guy at the end, slow motion dies with a helicopter crashing vertically upside down to the ice as he's screaming the whole way down, which is comical because it's like, why are you screaming? You're dead. Like, why are you screaming?
Well, he's not dead. He's dying. He's going to die. The pilot got shot, and he's trying to reach around the pilot, and this sounds sexual, but he's trying to reach around the pilot and grab the stick, the control stick. So,
but he's just screaming. He's just like looking up at him and just screaming the whole time. Just
Well, you're
not solving.
That guy you're not get his comeuppance. You need to see that bad guy have that look of terror on his face, like Hans Gruber from Die Hard, right? You need to see that look of terror on their face.
That's exactly what this was. This was the Hans Gruber falling off of the Nakatomi Plaza.
Yeah.
This is Hans Gruber falls back and they shoot it in the slow motion and he's just like like this. This was that same thing. They shot it slow motion. The helicopter's moving just slowly down and you just see his facial expression. I mean, it's almost shot for shot.
In the movie, you see goals getting scored by both teams. And I'll tell you guys this quick story. When I saw this movie in theaters in 95, every time a Blackhawks player scored, people started clapping like they were at a hockey game. And every time a Penguins player scored, people were booing. And it took me a minute to catch on. And then when I saw it, and I realized that I got in on it, right? So then we're all like, yeah, with like a Blackhawk scores. I mean, that was the experience in Chicago. But so just so you know, they actually announced like who's scoring in the game. So Kevin Stevens scores for the Penguins. Dirk Graham ties it. Then Jeff Shantz scores. Blackhawks take a lead. Thomas Sandstrom of the Penguins ties it. And Ron Francis scores, and the Penguins are leading. Rich Sutter scores. By the way, they don't announce that. And so I had to like pause it, slow motion it, catch the number. And then I saw, oh, it's Sutter, but it was 15 Sutter, not 12 Sutter. So it was Rich Sutter. I think that was the only goal he scored as a Blackhawk. And And then, anyways, tied. Then Bernie Nichols puts the Blackhawks in the lead before Luc Robitaille scores that goal with 0.0 seconds left and to tie the game. I think the Blackhawks would have won that game because there was no time left on the clock when Robitaille scored. Agree? Disagree?
You'd have to see the replay. You have to do like the extreme replay where they have the shot above the line and they just run the tick back and forth just to see to know for sure.
Be like 20 minutes of video review, right? And then so then Robitaille scores, ties the game, and then it goes to sudden death overtime. So it totally works, right? So I just thought that's just another thing that I liked about the movie. I love the play-by-play. I mean, there's a lot wrong with this movie, but it's like there's not a lot of perfect movies out there. And this isn't really like, I don't want to get into like, well, is The Godfather or The Godfather 2 or Empire Strikes Back, right? Like we could name movies that are pretty damn flawless. This isn't one of them, but still fun.
Certainly a fun movie. I mean, you can't take that away from what it is.
Yeah, no, I agree. Overall, it's a fun movie. If you have 2 hours to kill over the Christmas break, if you have one, it's worth watching. It's fun.
Yeah, and I know a lot of you have been messaging us. You're either commenting on YouTube or you've been messaging me on Instagram or on X or emailing me, and I appreciate that feedback. And I would love to know, did you see this movie, Sudden Death, or will you see it? Did you like the movie? If you've seen it, if you're a hockey fan, you're listening to this podcast, or if you're listening to this podcast, you're a hockey fan. So maybe you've seen this movie. Maybe you're going to go out and see it. Maybe you saw it a while ago. Would love to know what you think of the movie, and also what you think about us doing reviews of hockey movies. Now, we're not going to make this a regular thing, although I'm already thinking about the next one that I want to do because there's another movie coming up that I love that's going to have an anniversary next year, in January of next year, actually. But I'd like to know what you think of Sudden Death or what you think of this podcast where we talked about sudden death. Guys, any last thoughts before we end scene?
Just to clarify what we were talking about earlier, the comment that Mike Lang made when he fell, he goes, he hit his head on the ice. He hit it so hard that his kids will be born dizzy. That's what he said. I had to look it up to be sure, but typical Mike Langism. So
yeah, no, that's he has a lot of good Langisms in that.
Oh, by the way, I did want to point out before we go, in that article, they interviewed Paul Steigerwald. He was like a TV thing, but CBS News. And Staggy said that to this day, he still gets residual checks from that movie. Occasionally, like they come occasionally, but usually when they come, it's like $1.70, $1.75. Right. And he even brought one to the interview and he holds it up to the camera, and it's like $1.71 or something like that.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So
I actually before we go, one thing I want to show. So I'm wearing a hockey jersey today. I'm actually wearing a Sudden Death hockey jersey, and this is actually something they gave away to promote the movie back in the day. On the back it says 1 Van Damme, and on the front it's got the Sudden Death logo. Why it's in red, white, and blue and not Penguins colors, I don't know. And then I got this Sudden Death press kit, which came in this folder, and it has like notes with like cast and credit, not very exciting. Came with a bunch of black and white photos, not very exciting. And then I got like this color. It's actually like a poster. It's like these photos that you tear apart. It's printed on like poster paper. And it actually, those are my two favorite shots right there, side by side. So yeah, I'm enough of a fan of this movie that I sought out some extra things for my collection, which I guess you'd expect that from me, right? To have that kind of junk.
No,
Puck Junk.
not at all. From you?
Yeah.
Come on.
Me, yeah. All right, well, guys, this is going to be our last show until January. We're going to take a little bit of a hiatus for about, let's see, maybe like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Like, we'll probably hit you up around mid-January. We're going to come back because we got Christmas, we got New Year, I got the new quarter starting at school, so we got a lot going on. I got a lot going on these next 3 weeks, but so you'll hear from us in like mid-January. So until then, just want to wish you happy holidays, whatever you celebrate. We hope you celebrate a lot and have fun and have a great time with you and your family and your friends. Maybe get in watching some hockey, maybe get in watching Sudden Death. Let us know what you think about it. Guys, any last thoughts, or are we good to go?
We're good to go. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to the Puck Junk Hockey Podcast. As always, if you've enjoyed the show, please be sure to like and subscribe. If you'd like to support this podcast, you can do so by purchasing a t-shirt at shop.puckjunk.com. And if you'd like to read, check out the newsletter at puckjunk.com/newsletter and the blog at puckjunk.com. And until next time, collect what you like.